Chapter 2352, Certain Death 7. For a short while, the third elder won't be personally making my life difficult. As long as she doesn't make a move herself, no one can truly kill me. Su Luo smiled and walked off the stage. What worried her now was how to deal with Ziyin and Beichen. She definitely couldn't stay in the inner city. The great elder had gone out, so she couldn't just send people to his place. Besides, Su Luo didn't think that the great elder would just protect them if she sent them to where he was. After all, if the great elder had really spared no effort in protecting Beichen and Ziyin, they wouldn't be in such a sorry state now. So Su Luo asked the sixth elder, "Can you bring them back to the genius training camp?" The sixth elder smiled. "Su Luo is finally relying on me. Excellent." For the sixth elder, Su Luo owing him a favor was just a plus. On the contrary, he was terrified of Su Luo not owing him any favor at all. To a martial artist, the upstream mountain can only be reached by starting from the very bottom and climbing all the way to the top. Naturally, the two of them would have been unable to enter. Su Luo cast a sidelong glance at him, but the sixth elder proudly stroked his beard. They can enter the pill refining tower. But they're martial artists, not apothecaries. Su Luo furrowed her brows. The sixth elder looked at Su Luo with a look of pure ridicule. A grandmaster apothecary can have up to 2 attendants accompanying them. These so-called attendants are technically bodyguards that protect the apothecary. Seeing Su Luo's puzzled look, the sixth elder said with a beaming smile, "So you can entrust them to me, and they will act as my attendants. Wouldn't they be able to enter the upstream mountain then? As long as he brought 2 people along with him. Wouldn't Su Luo be running his laboratory every day? When that happened, he could ask her for a great number of things. Don't worry, I won't actually have them do the job of attendants. If you want them to cultivate, I'll open up a room for them to do so." A grandmaster apothecary can have 2 attendants accompanying them? Su Luo looked at the sixth elder with a smile. Of course. The sixth elder proudly raised his chin. The sixth elder didn't feel as though anything was amiss. Nevertheless, he was still shocked to his core by Su Luo's piercing gaze. "Then, what do you think? Should I have 2 attendants accompanying me?" Su Luo looked at the sixth elder with a beaming smile. The sixth elder. How could he forget that about Su Luo? This brat was young, but her medicinal knowledge surpassed even his own. Of course she would be qualified to have attendants. The sixth elder huffed as he glared at her, before turning his head around in a fit of anger. "However, I still need the sixth elder's help with something." Su Luo's voice rang out from behind the sixth elder. "Help with what?" The sixth elder asked. "Didn't you say it earlier? To help me enter 2 people into upstream mountain by having them act as attendants." Su Luo smiled like it was a foregone conclusion. "I have more than 2 friends." There were actually 4. Besides Beichen Ying and Ziyin, there was also Anya Ming and Lan Xian. Since the third elder had used magic to catch Beichen Ying and Ziyin, he would most likely target Lan Xian and Anya Ming next. Hence, to be on the safe side, Su Luo wanted to bring all of them to Upstream Mountain. At Upstream Mountain, the third elder couldn't interfere. Thus, to reduce the increased risk brought about by waiting, Su Luo wanted to move Lan Xian and Anya Ming out today. A row of people were sitting in the golden ship, brimming with excitement as they returned to the Upstream Mountain. The people privy to this matter were about to choke on their own blood. They had arduously climbed step after step to scale the mountain. However, with a friend in a high place, all it took for them was just a change of identity. Chapter 2353, Temple of the Abyss, 1. Everyone was aware that the resources available for cultivation in the upstream mountain were far much better. Without mentioning anything else, just the gravity chamber alone was enough to make a lot of people drool. Su Luo brought Beichen Ying and the others inside the pill refining tower. Only the abnormal time difference of the gravity chamber could allow them to quickly improve their strength within a short period of time. As for the points, senior brother Luo had gone to the extraterritorial battlefield and would not be back in a short time. As for the 8th elder, Su Luo felt that he might go mad and stab her in the back if she was to ask him for points once again. As for herself, for the sake of obtaining the 9 Yin and 9 Yang falling cloud flower earlier, She didn't have many points remaining on hand. So Su Luo immediately set her sights on the sixth elder. The sixth elder was now all too eager for Su Luo to request something of him, and she had just brought her request up to borrow points from the sixth elder. The sixth elder waved his hand. "There's no need to borrow from me. Just say how much you need." Su Luo smiled embarrassed. "It's for the best that I'll borrow." No need, borrowing back and forth is so troublesome. Just say how much you want." The sixth elder casually asked Su Luo to name a price, like the rich man he was. Su Luo held up 4 fingers. 4 million points? The sixth elder nodded. "That's just a little bit. I'll just give it to you." "It's 40 million. Su Luo silently looked at the sixth elder. The sixth elder choked on his own saliva. Cough, cough, cough. "What's more, this is just the beginning." Su Luo laughed awkwardly. At this moment, not just the sixth elder, but even Bei Qining and the rest were about to go mad. All of them felt as though they had entered a dream world. They remembered that a few months ago, they and Su Luo had worked themselves to the bone for just a few dozen thousands of points, but now, Su Luo had opened her mouth and asked several tens of millions of points. Was this really good? Bei Qining and the rest were totally incapable of regaining their senses. "Why do you need so many points for? Did you discover the Ling tree water? Or the 9 stars Mingmu grass?" The sixth elder was excited. One had to know that if these 2 plants were obtained, preparations for one to advance to Grandmaster Apothecary could begin. Neither. Su Luo decided to tell the truth. "I want to send them to the gravity chamber." "Send all of them to the gravity chamber?" The sixth elder sucked in a cold breath. What generosity this was. One would need 10 million points to use the gravity chamber for 1 month. For the 4 of them, 40 million points would only be enough for them to use for 1 month. Ziyan anxiously shook her head at Su Luo. "No need, we don't need to go into the gravity chamber." However, Su Luo resolutely shook her head. "I've already decided this matter. You all only need to go in. As for points, with my current identity as Grandmaster Apothecary, how could I be scared of not having points? What do you say, sixth elder?" The sixth elder nodded in agreement. Indeed, being an apothecary is the fastest way to earn points. So you guys can relax. I refined a Grandmaster Spirit Absorption pill earlier, and sold it for more than 10 million points. The expenses for you all entering the gravity chamber is no problem at all for me. Su Luo thumped her chest in confidence. There are naturally a number of inspections one would need to pass through before entering Upstream Mountain. However, they had the presence of a living symbol, the sixth elder. Who would dare to offend him? Thus, in a well-trained fashion, the inspection personnel arranged things properly for Bei Qining and the rest, and presented them with identity plates. Given their actual strength, they could only be given bronze tokens. However, Su Luo insisted on them being given silver tokens, and under the gaze of the sixth elder, those people didn't dare to say even a single word. Chapter 2354. Temple of the Abyss 2. After borrowing the points from the sixth elder, Su Luo immediately sent all 4 of them into the gravity chamber, hoping that they could quickly improve their strength. She would never again want to implicate her friends, and see them get badly hurt as a result. After thinking about it, she borrowed another 10 million points from the sixth elder, and pushed Big Sister Wei into the gravity chamber as well. These people were on her side. The stronger they became, the better it would be for her. As for Su Luo, she did not go in. That was because doing seated cultivation itself was not enough to help one progress through the cultivation realms. If one does not gain any comprehension or enlightenment, one might only make a little progress despite sitting there for 10 years. What she lacked the most right now was not the cultivation, but actual fights, practical experience, and trials. This was the conclusion Su Luo came to when she fought with Ling Xianran. After returning to Wuxia Mountain, Su Luo locked herself up alone in her room. Closing her eyes, everything that had happened in the past few days continued to play back in her mind. Although she has made amazingly rapid progress, she was still too weak. Just Ling Xianran alone had been enough to force her to use all her cards. A quarter of the year until the agreed time for the death battle with Fairy Wuyo had already passed by. In the past 3 months she had progressed fast, with the gap in strength between her and Fairy Wuyo continuing to shrink. However, having reached level 65 in the dragon list, Su Luo knew very well that it would be very difficult to make rapid progress from there on, unless a big chance presents itself. That big chance was impossible to encounter if she continued to sit at home. This could not go on. She had to make a trip to the magical beast zone. Not only her, but the little fox Sable needed to gain experience as well. Su Luo ran to the sixth elder, borrowed his laboratory and medicinal storehouse, then spent 3 days there to refine 3 bottles of concealment potion for herself. Each bottle of concealment potion only worked a quarter of an hour. However, it was more than enough for her to avoid many dangers. Then Su Luo told the sixth elder that she would like to go out to gain more experience. The sixth elder showed Su Luo the way. Take a look at the mission hall. You could earn some points while training. That would be the perfect combination. The mission hall? Su Luo realized that despite having been in Upstream Mountain for several months, she hadn't been in the mission hall once. It was time for her to make a visit. Therefore, Su Luo went straight to the mission hall. The mission hall had a standard European style, with simple curves. It was spacious and bright with a beautiful aesthetic touch. There were not many people in the mission hall. Su Luo walked straight in, with a feeling of entering an airport from her previous life. That was because those flashing missions on the big screen were similar to the flights scheduled in the airport in her past life. Therefore, Su Luo had an inexplicable sense of déjà vu. Hello, do you need any help? A delicate and pretty young lady approached Su Luo. I want to take on a mission. Su Luo's words were concise and clear. Please come with me over here. The young lady led Su Luo to the front of the counter. Behind the counter, an exceptionally handsome young man was sitting at the operating desk. His fair and slender fingers tapped constantly on the optical tablet, looking serious and focused. Brother Qing, someone's here to take up a mission. The young lady pushed Su Luo forward. After handing Su Luo over to the young man at the counter, the young lady ran away with a smile on her face. The young man raised his head, gazing at Su Luo calmly, waiting for her to speak. Su Luo touched her nose. It was her first time coming to the mission hall, so she didn't understand the process here. Therefore, Su Luo asked directly, "What missions can I choose from?" Name. The clean-shaven young man asked. Su Luo. When the clean-shaven young man heard Su Luo's name, an indiscernible look flashed several times across his eyes. Chapter 2355, Temple of the Abyss 3. Sorry, there is no record of you on the dragon list. The young man raised his head and looked straight at Su Luo. Is that a problem? Su Luo looked at him indifferently. No problem, but F-level missions are the only ones you can take. The young man's eyes curved slightly upwards into a professional smile. Our missions are divided into 5 types: A level, B level, C level, D level, and F level. You belong to level F. Su Luo frowned, and her premonition started to tingle. The name of your squad? The young man raised his head again, with a gentle smile in his eyes. We will give you an appropriate mission based on your squad's level. Su Luo felt that the level of little Luo's team was definitely not high. Sure enough, the young man smiled lightly after looking it up. It's also level F. It seems that you can only choose an F-level mission. The young man tapped his fingers for a while, before lists of the F-level missions quickly appeared on the screen. These missions were very simple. For example, kill 10 nine-tailed scarlet tigers. Another example, get the horns of the 9-star godly deers. And another example, collecting a dragon scale flower. For Su Luo, these missions were not difficult at all. In fact, they were a pure waste of time. Su Luo glanced at the column on the right side of the mission list. Sure enough, these missions were worth very few points, ranging from a few thousands to tens of thousands, at most 20,000. Su Luo was not a fool to take on these missions. Can we change to a higher level mission? Su Luo decided that if the other party said no, she would simply enter the magical beast area alone, and forget about it. May I ask about your elemental attributes? Wood and fire dual elements. Su Luo concealed the spatial element. If it is the wood and fire dual elements, there should be some exceptions you can pick from. The young man's finger moved and soon another list of missions appeared on the screen. There were a total of 10 missions this time. These 10 missions are not squad-based, they are made for lone wolves like you, so there is no requirement for the squad's rank, and there is no requirement for a high ranking in the dragon list. Su Luo nodded. This was indeed what she asked for. Excuse me, do you have any other requests? The young man asked affably and politely. The level of the team members should be at least above 70 on the dragon list. Su Luo did not want to bring a burden to others. In that case, the only one that meets your requirements is this one mission. The young man pointed to the screen and said, "Enter the Temple of the Abyss and obtain the Eternal Heart. When you all come out with the Eternal Heart, each of you can get 5 million points. This mission is S level, consider it carefully." What is the Eternal Heart? Su Luo's eyes had a bewildered expression. I hope that in a month's time, you will tell us more about what the Eternal Heart is. The young man smiled gently. Su Luo looked straight at the boy. A strange feeling flashed through her mind, but she couldn't put her finger on what was odd. Maybe I'm just thinking too much? Su Luo shook her head, removing this strange thought out of her mind. This is your teleportation tablet. The boy handed Su Luo a yellow jade tag with the number 23 marked on it. Please go to the 23rd teleportation gate and wait. When your team has fully assembled, you will be able to teleport into the Abyssal Divine Hall together. Good luck. The young man smiled in an official and polite manner. Su Luo nodded, took the jade tag, and found portal number 23. This was the first time she went to the mission hall to receive a mission, so everything she was experiencing right now was new and interesting. Chapter 2356. Temple of the Abyss 4. Taking advantage of her current situation, Su Luo took out her black communication amulet and dialed Nangong Liuyun's number. The communication amulet rang for quite some time, but Nangong Liuyun's side of the call remained unresponsive. Was he busy? But who knew that just as Su Luo was about to hang up out of the blue, an arrogant female voice answered the call. Who are you? Su Luo was shocked for a moment. This was Nangong Liuyun's communication amulet. How could someone else answer it? Wasn't it clasped onto the body? You're Su Luo, right? The other party questioned her bluntly. Su Luo. Who are you? Su Luo frowned, coldly answering back with another question. Why do you have Nangong Liuyun's communication amulet? What happened to him? The other person on the phone dripped with disgust in their voice. Su Luo, if you still even care a little about His Highness, then don't disturb him again. Got it? Su Luo. Judging from the childishly fierce female voice, Su Luo guessed that she was probably in her teens. Where did Nangong encounter such a young lady? And had he actually never talked about this with her? Who exactly are you? Su Luo questioned rudely. I am his closest woman. The woman's voice carried a trace of pride. And as for you, you're just a past that can be easily wiped away with a wave of the hand. So as I said, don't disturb my Highness Nangong. Su Luo. Just pass the communication amulet to Nangong Liuyun. Humph. You've harmed His Highness to this point, and you still want to talk to him? I definitely won't allow it. The young lady was so full of herself. It was as if she was actually the person with the right to stand by Nangong Liuyun's side. I harmed him to what point? Su Luo vaguely had a foreboding feeling. Could you actually not know? Last time, in order to save you, His Highness almost failed his mission, provoking Her Majesty's suspicion, resulting in the affliction caused by the heart-devouring poison. Do you know how horrifying the heart-devouring poison is? The poison intensifies every 7 days. After it intensifies, the kind of pain it causes is enough to drive a person to death. In order to suppress the heart-devouring poison, His Highness could only go into the 10,000-year-old chilling pond and use the cold poison to restrain the heart-devouring poison. Do you know how frightening the 10,000-year-old chilling pond is? If he continued on, the toxins would have accumulated and led him to death. Do you know this or not? You are so weak. You will forever be a burden to him, only bringing problems to His Highness. How could you still have the dignity to still engage with him? I really hate you. In the future, don't bother His Highness again. After that girl finished speaking, She closed the communication amulet sharply with a snap. By the time Su Luo called back again, the other side had completely shut off communication, and the call yielded no response. Su Luo stood blankly at the spot. Her heart felt like it was being squashed ruthlessly by a giant hand, being squeezed into different shapes. The pain was suffocating. Who was that girl? How could she have access to Nangong Liuyun's communication amulet? Was what she said true or false? For a time, Su Luo's thoughts were in a muddle, and her head had a splitting headache. This wasn't okay. She had to go to the Thorns to pay Nangong Liyun a visit. She couldn't just abandon Nangong Liyun and not care about him. And just at that moment, the people beside Su Luo had all arrived. Come on, the teleportation tablet. Someone held their hand out toward Su Luo. Su Luo absent-mindedly handed her teleportation tablet over. Suddenly, Su Luo could only feel a flash before her eyes. And when she opened her eyes again, the scenery in front of her had already changed dramatically. Chapter 2357. Temple of the Abyss 5. Su Luo scratched her head and glanced over to her side. By then, there were already 4 people gathered beside her. 2 of them were men, and the other 2 were women. Amongst them, a callous-looking young male was gripping his sword with both hands, and swept a glance at Su Luo arrogantly. Lung Qi. The other one looked as gentle as jade, and said in a nice refined tone, I'm Chu Yang, the leader of the team this time. The impression Chu Yang gave was similar to the meaning of his name, as warm as the sunlight, and his smile gave the feeling of a spring breeze. Of the 2 ladies, the one that had a diva-like persona gave Su Luo an arrogant glance and said, Call me senior sister you. The other one was a little lowly in a fiery red dress, appearing cute and lively, warm and enthusiastic. I'm Xiao Luo, and this is my first time taking part in a mission. I hope you guys can be forgiving with my shortcomings. Su Luo resignedly asked again. Right now? Can I still go back? You're referring to... Xiao Luo's eyes were like a twinkling pair of stars. Giving up on the mission? Su Luo said dejectedly. Huh. Lung Qi cast a sidelong glance towards Su Luo, and mockery crept up the edges of his eyes. You haven't even begun the mission and you're already scared and want to give up? You are truly ridiculous. As the captain, Chu Yang stepped in with a smile to resolve the tense situation. He shook his head and said towards Su Luo, After you enter, there are only 2 ways to leave. Su Luo was immediately all ears and ready to listen. Chu Yang said seriously, One way to get out is staying the entire duration of the month, and after the month is over, the gates of the Temple of Abyss will open. You can leave then. The second way is completing the mission and retrieving the Eternal Heart, and the gates of the Temple of Abyss will also open then. Su Luo gave a tacit agreement with a nod of her head. It also meant that, no matter what, I had to complete this mission. Since I couldn't return for the time being, then let's just focus on the task at hand. I would give my best effort at strengthening my own abilities, then I would have the chance to go and look for Nangong Liyun in the future. Although Su Luo had Nangong Liyun on her mind, she trusted him with her life. She could wait for him. She wouldn't entirely believe the words of that woman, and only Nangong Liyun's personal reply would satisfy her. The Temple of Abyss. Where are we? How come we can't see any temple? Xiao Luo curiously looked to the left and right, her rosy mouth pouting slightly. Chu Yang took out a map and held it in his hand, smiled faintly, and opened his mouth. This is the top level of the abyss, which is just below the ground, and as for the temple, it is in the deepest areas of the abyss. We can only advance towards it 1 step at a time. What you mean by advancing is... Xiao Luo was like a curious little baby. Right then, Su Luo's eyes flashed as she sensed something dangerous approaching them. This danger was not from just 1 person, or 2, but a group of people. Incoming trouble. A curved bow suddenly appeared in Senior Sister Yu's right hand. She propped the bow against her collarbone, aimed forward, and prepared to fire. Su Luo nodded her head. Our luck is really quite good. We met a patrol group as soon as we entered, and we have even been targeted. Xiao Luo blinked her eyes as she seemed yet not to understand Su Luo's statement. Senior Sister Yu gave Su Luo a few thoughtful looks. Right then, as if to prove Su Luo's previous statement, a storm of footsteps echoed from the front. Oh my god! Look at the body armor they're wearing, and the pikes they're holding. They really are patrolling soldiers. Xiao Luo shouted, speeding over to hide behind Su Luo. There were really quite a lot of patrol soldiers in this group. At a quick glance, it seemed to number at least in the hundreds or even thousands. One could only see them forming ranks one after another, and rushing towards them. Chapter 2358. Temple of the Abyss 6. Xiao Luo was so frightened that her face turned white as she let a scream out. What should we do? She grabbed Su Luo's right hand in panic. Su Luo was lost for words, the twitching of the corners of her mouth the only thing she could do. How could such a fragile-hearted girl be let in? She seems to be even weaker than Li Man. Seeing that the group of patrol soldiers were about to rush up and surround them, Chu Yang shouted out, "Hurry up and use your flying skills." After reaching the saint rank, everyone was able to display flying skills. However, their faces soon turned pale. How come I can't fly? Xiao Luo's face turned pale with nervousness. She wasn't the only one feeling nervous, as the rest of the team also had similar reactions from not being able to fly. In other words, it was forbidden to use flying techniques here. At this time, everyone realized that there was a raging army of demons in front of them, and a hard, smooth wall behind them, leaving them with no way out. Chu Yang made a prompt decision. If we are to enter the Temple of the Abyss, we must step on the corpses of these patrolmen. Let's fight, friends. This was a real fight, with no one thinking about relying on luck to help them out. No one expected to have such a dangerous encounter right after coming to the underground abyss. Now start reporting your level and attributes, as well as your best skills. Chu Yang said loudly. As the squad leader, it was natural for him to take command. Lung Qi 4 stars Saint rank, Ice element. Senior Sister Yu 3 stars Saint rank, Thunder element. Xiao Luo 2 stars Saint rank, Light element. Then all 4 of them looked at Su Luo. Su Luo was secretly surprised. Although these 4 people appeared to be newly formed acquaintances, they seemed to have a tacit level of cohesion, as though they were a single entity. Before taking the task, didn't the teenager who gave the task say that this was a ragtag bunch of soloers? How come Although Su Lu had doubts in her heart, she nonetheless followed and reported her attributes. Su Luo, 2 stars Saint rank, Wood and Fire double elements. Very good, now I'll arrange our tasks. After making detailed calculations, Chu Yang quickly said, Senior Sister Yu and Xiao Luo will form one team. Combine your ice and lightning elements to do the main attack. Xiao Luo will aid with healing. Su Luo will team up with me and focus on attacking from the sides. Remember, our aim is to rush through the wall of people, not to exhaust ourselves fighting with these patrolmen. There's no need to save each other, just look out for yourself. Understood? Understood. Speed up. After Chu Yang gave the order, he pulled Su Luo and rushed forward. Su Luo actually wanted to say that she wanted to be in a group by herself. This way, she would be able to use teleport. With the ability to teleport, she would not be afraid of the patrol corps. However, Chu Yang didn't give her a chance to refute, as he shouted his instructions loudly to Su Luo. I'll be on the right and you on the left. We'll handle our own fights and guard each other's backs. Leaving her back to the stranger was not a habit that Su Luo had. Nevertheless, with how natural Chu Yang said it, Su Luo could only nod her head lightly. I'll try my best. However, traces of suspicion appeared in Su Luo's heart. This was a vague sensation, a feeling without substantial evidence, of the strange vibe from this temporary team. Those 4 people, everyone appearing to be unfamiliar with each other, yet on occasion, showing a flowing tacit understanding. Chapter 2359. Temple of the Abyss 7. Could it be that I'm unable to get used to the group, to the extent of feeling incompatible with them, and thus I developed this feeling? Su Luo was thinking that way. Other things aside, Su Luo had to admit that Chu Yang was indeed a good teammate. He had a strong attacking power, while Su Luo was fast. Most of the time, his attack would leave the patrolman severely wounded. Su Luo would then follow up a flurry of slashes with her chaining sword, slashing the heads of the patrolmen in batches. Very soon, circular batches of the patrolmen fell down in succession around Su Luo and Chu Yang. The two of them advanced step by step. Furthermore, in order to give the little fox sable a chance to practice, Su Luo took it out and let it move freely, but instructed her not to leave more than 10 meters apart from her. Having inherited the speed of the little fox and the natural sense of direction of the little purple sable, the little fox sable was able to calculate where there were the fewest patrollers, and where it was best suited to attack. Despite the slow speed of their advancement, this battle gave Su Luo an unprecedented feeling of actual combat. In the past, she won her fights most of the time either by skill or luck, and rarely due to her own strength. That was different this time around. Su Luo rarely used skills to take shortcuts, and followed Chu Yang, moving forward little by little. However, due to her suspicions, Su Luo would still subconsciously focus on the other team. In the beginning, the three other members were fighting separately, but soon, they became united. Su Luo clearly noticed how the three of them guarded each other, giving their backs to each other with confidence. This isn't right. Su Luo secretly shook her head in her heart. Taking herself as an example, she only dared to give her back to Nangong and the others. That was not the case for Chu Yang, whom she had just met. Her trust in him was not enough for her to do so. Furthermore, due to the super tacit understanding of the three of them and their strong teamwork, the combat power of the trio had doubled as compared to before. This level of tacit understanding could not be reached on the first day after getting to know each other, and must be practiced for a long time. Su Luo's eyes flickered while a guess silently formed in her heart. If this is the case, the boy who helped her choose the task before is suspicious. What Su Luo didn't know was that the boy's position had now been replaced by an old man. The old man looked at the young boy and said lightly, "Nothing went wrong at work, right?" A cunning glint flashed across the teenager's eyes, though his face did not move. "Grandpa, isn't it just issuing missions? The optical tablet has all the records. I'm just following the steps, so what can go wrong? Is your grandson so useless in your eyes?" Eh? The grandfather glanced suspiciously at his grandson. Usually, when he wanted to ask his grandson to work in the mission hall, the latter would run away faster than a rabbit. All day long, he preferred to be near that fairy Wuxia like molasses, and could not be called to work. However, this time around he had actually taken the initiative to help at work. Therefore, how would one not think deeper into it? "Okay, Grandpa, I have been working for you for a short while. How could something happen? Are you all right?" The grandfather thought about it. That's right, nothing could go wrong. However, there was a faint bad feeling nagging in his heart, which subconsciously left him uneasy. "All right, Grandpa, I'm going out." The young man waved his hand to his grandpa, ran out of the mission hall excitedly, and swiftly headed towards the pavilion of Fairy Wuyo. He had done a very interesting thing just now. If Fairy Wuyo knew about it, she would definitely praise me. The smile hanging on the corner of the boy's mouth was radiant, and filled with satisfaction. Chapter 2360, Retribution 1. On the way out, Chu Yang had been looking out for Su Luo. Su Luo acted calm and relaxed, but in her heart, she was wary of him. This feeling came from Su Luo's keen sixth sense. Su Luo remembered that she had asked the young boy to choose a diverse team of people, for fear of them possibly working together to undermine her. Everyone in this team looked like they had just met each other at first glance, but Su Luo had seen so few indications of unfamiliarity that she began formulating a backup plan. The abyssal space was vast and endless, full of rolling hills, forests and grasses, and big rivers. When Su Luo and the others ran away from the patrol legion's pursuit, practically everyone was injured to some degree. There is a forest not far ahead. These patrol legions definitely won't enter the forest. By then we will be safe. Chu Yang turned around and encouraged the team behind him. Not far behind, the patrol legion was still chasing them relentlessly. The crowd nodded and obeyed the captain's lead. It didn't take long for everyone to rush into the forest. Sure enough, the patrol company was hovering just on the outskirts of the forest, shouting but without any intentions of rushing in. Xiao Luo opened a pair of big eyes and asked the captain curiously, "Why aren't they coming in?" Chu Yang smiled mysteriously. Senior sister Yu disdainfully hooked her lips up. There is a particular set of rules for the Vanguard Abyss. The Patrol Legion has a contract with the King of the Forest, restricting them from entering each other's domain. Didn't you watch the informative film before coming in? In the last half of her words, Senior Sister Yu was questioning Xiao Luo. Xiao Luo stuck out her pink tongue and made a face, but she was not angry because of Senior Sister Yu's attitude. From the beginning to the end, Su Luo maintained a gentle smile, neither involving herself in conversations nor clashing with anyone. She seemed like she was just wandering around the team. The lively Xiao Luo spontaneously and automatically rubbed close to Su Luo. Senior Sister Su, why are you not talking? Are you worried that you won't be able to return? Don't be afraid. With our captain around, there's no need to worry. You know the captain well? Su Luo grinned and glanced at her. Xiao Luo's eyes flickered slightly and then laughed. I've never been on a mission with the captain before, so how could I be familiar with him? But the captain is very powerful. He's ranked 55th on the dragon list. Xiao Luo beamed and narrowed her eyes in admiration. Is that so? Su Luo responded indifferently. After that, Xiao Luo kept pulling Su Luo along with her and pulling the two closer, rambling on and on. She seemed such a lively, lovely, pure, and innocent-looking little girl that whoever saw her would take a liking to her. Based solely on appearances, of course. Su Luo had suspicions in her heart, and looked at Xiao Luo with a different kind of gaze. The arrogance in the girl's eyes was easy to find. It's getting late. Eat something, take a break, and we'll get back on the road in an hour, Chu Yang said, then took out the food prepared long ago from his large storage bag. The food was very basic. There was no big fish or meat, only simple compressed bread and water. This kind of compressed bread was sold in the Genius Training Camp, 1 point apiece. Chu Yang smiled and divided the bread into pieces one by one. Chapter 2361, Retribution 2. After taking the bread, everyone conversed as they ate. They seemed to get acquainted very quickly. The atmosphere in the team was unexpectedly harmonious, but something else was even more unusual. Su Luo recalled that when she first entered Xiao Luo's team, Li Man had been very sarcastic and contemptuous toward her for no reason. So when she was being chased down by the patrol soldiers, she deliberately made a few missteps to confirm her suspicion, which almost dragged the team down. However, under those circumstances, Lung Qiwo was so full of character and Senior Sister Yuho was distant and imposing suddenly turned a blind eye to her, as if she was invisible. Xiao Luo continued chattering around her, and Chu Yang did not say a single harsh word. This was not right. Something was out of the ordinary. Su Luo held some bread in her hand. However, she only stared at it. She did not eat it. When Xiao Luo saw her, she said sweetly, Senior Sister Su, hurry up and eat. We will be on the road in an hour. There are more challenges ahead of us, and only those who have a full stomach will have the strength to overcome them. I don't want to, Su Luo said carefully. You have to eat a little, even if you don't want to. Otherwise, what are you going to do if you get sick from hunger? Xiao Luo seemed very concerned for Su Luo and nudged her to eat. All right then. Su Luo slowly tore off a small piece and put it in her mouth. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed that Xiao Luo's team was not the only team watching her eat. Several others seemed to be covertly watching her delicate fingers holding the bread. Su Luo laughed coldly in her mind. Then she shoved the chunk into her mouth. Then, she felt the 4 people sigh with relief. How is it? It doesn't taste too good, does it? They were all bought at the camp. This kind of bread doesn't look appetizing, and the taste is adequate, but it can help you withstand hunger. If you eat one, you can survive without eating or drinking for 3 days, Xiao Luo urged Su Luo again. Senior Sister Su, even if you don't like it, just have a little bit. Su Luo's thick eyelashes fell as she lowered her eyes, concealing the sneer on her face. Young lady, you said that you were unfamiliar with the captain. How did you know that he bought it at the camp? Also, you keep on insisting that all loaves of bread were bought at the camp. Are you implying that all of you got the same bread as mine? But Su Luo knew that this was not true. as she tasted something different in her food. Poison. One that could paralyze the nerves and limbs. The poison was called scarlet blood. It was colorless and tasteless, so the average person would not detect it. However, Su Luo was now a grandmaster apothecary, and her research about poisons had long surpassed any apothecary in the genius training camp. The people standing in front of Su Luo dared to poison her. They were truly just provoking someone far more powerful than one. Although it seemed that Su Luo mindlessly ate the bread, the truth was that she faked eating it. It fell into her space rather than her stomach. Not far away from her, several people saw Su Luo had eaten. They glanced at each other with a look of triumph. Little did they know that Su Luo had captured their expressions and actions. A scornful expression flashed across her eyes. Now it was evident that the other party bore ill intent for Su Luo. Even 4 Su Luos would not be able to defeat the combined strength of those 4 people, so it was logical to conclude that she should leave as soon as possible. But Su Luo would not do that. She has always done the very opposite. Chapter 2362. Retribution 3. Moreover, Su Luo did not have much knowledge on the Eternal Heart. She wanted to take advantage of this opportunity and acquire more information about it by asking Xiao Luo. Having seen her eat the bread, the others were no longer as wary of her, knowing that she could be finished off effortlessly at any time. In order to get the Eternal Heart, we need to go into the Temple of the Abyss, the captain explained. However, the Eternal Heart isn't actually an intact heart. It is made up of 10 crystal fragments. Crystal fragments? Su Luo asked, confused. The captain didn't want to immediately kill Su Luo. If he kept Su Luo alive, she could be used as free labor to retrieve crystal fragments. Therefore, the captain patiently replied, "There are special 4-winged Ganyu in the Temple of the Abyss. They might drop crystal fragments upon their deaths." At this moment, Chu Yang paused for a moment, and withheld a crucial piece of information from Su Luo before continuing on. After getting 10 pieces of crystal shards, they will merge together to form the Eternal Heart. So what can the Eternal Heart do? Su Luo asked curiously. It doesn't matter what it can do. As long as we take the Eternal Heart back, we will get the mission reward of 30 million points, Senior Sister Yu sneered. Out of these 30 million points, the 4 team members would get 5 million points each, and Captain would get 10 million points. Their conversation was cut short by Senior Sister Yu's statement. After resting for about 2 hours, they rushed toward the Temple of the Abyss. Su Luo had been paying close attention during the trip, and she couldn't help but snigger at the others. If Su Luo was not as observant along the road, she would have found herself at the center of the group. The captain was in front, Leng Qi behind, Senior Sister Yu on the left, and Xiao Luo on the right. A formation like this was not so much to protect her as it was to guard against her. After a day and night on the road, the Temple of the Abyss was right in front of them. There was a vast, boundless lake ahead. The water was very clear, and had a shade of blue richer than the sky. The lake appeared to be at least the size of a metropolitan city. A dark palace floated ominously above the giant lake. Look. The temple. That's the temple we are looking for. Xiao Luo was so excited, she wanted to jump up and down. Didn't Xiao Luo have a light attribute? Shouldn't she be somewhat averse to the dark palace in front of her? Why would she be so excited? Just as suspicion crept on Su Luo, Chu Yang surveyed the terrain. The inside of the temple is lurking with danger. Everyone should be careful after entering, and especially make sure not to be separated and get lost. Yes, sir. The team replied in unison. Su Luo, you follow along beside me. Chu Yang gazed sternly toward Su Luo. Su Luo sneered at him in her heart. She had expected Chu Yang to be cautious but not to such a great extent. Sure, Su Luo smiled slightly. They leapt into the temple one by one with light and agile steps. Only after entering did they realize the jaw-dropping size of the temple. The Temple of the Abyss gave Su Luo a foreboding feeling. After following the team in, Su Luo found herself in a new, gloomy, dark, and scary world. This palace had been in disrepair for several years and had no inhabitants. Perhaps because it was suspended above a lake, the humidity had caused moss to grow everywhere, entirely covering the walls and floor. Chapter 2363. Retribution 4. Everyone ran along quickly without a sound. At this moment, a sinister cold wind blew from behind, so icy cold that it bit into one's bones. This wind also carried an indescribable gloomy and bizarre feel, causing people's hairs to stand up. When one mentioned a temple, one would naturally expect there to be various buildings, gardens, corridors, terraces and so on. However, there was nothing here. Other than the moss under the feet, the only thing present was the damp and cold wind. There was a giant statue standing at every 1,000-meter intervals. Various lifelike and hideous-looking figures were carved on the surface of each giant statue. Some had their eyes gouged out, some were hung by their noses, while others had their limbs severed, leaving people feeling terrified after seeing them. Right at this moment a fierce roar erupted. Furthermore, this roar wasn't the last of it. Su Luo turned her body around to look ahead. That was a cliff. There was a large dark cave on the cliff, and the black wings could be vaguely seen within. There is a lair of the four-winged Ganyu beasts. Everyone be careful, and get ready for battle. Chu Yang said loudly, shoving the map in his hands into his robes. Right at this moment, whoosh whoosh whoosh, huge figures started to rush towards the 5-person team. So these are the legendary four-winged Ganyu beasts? They are indeed very scary. Each one of them was about 2 stories high, had a surprisingly large head, and 4 beating wings. It would still be manageable if there were only 2 or 3 of them. The problem was that there were at least a dozen of these 4-winged Ganyu beasts rushing towards them. Focus. Each person will handle 2 of them. Help the others when you're done with your share. Chu Yang's voice rang out clearly. Each crystal shard can be exchanged for 3 million points. The original distribution method was not like this, with the norm being for each team member to be allocated 5 million points and 10 million points for a captain. However, the captain had the right to change the distribution method, as long as half of the team members agreed. After hearing what Chu Yang said, everyone fought harder. Su Luo also proceeded to contend against the 4-winged Ganyu beasts. However, she didn't give her all, as she had to save her physical strength to prevent her companions from being mutilated. Also, she wanted to keep her trump cards to use in the right situation. Thus, after Chu Yang killed the 2 4-winged Ganyu beasts, Su Luo still continued tussling with the 2 4-winged Ganyu beasts. Lung Qi had also killed his assigned number of the beasts, and had already gone to help Xiao Luo. With her strength, senior sister, you could handle her assigned targets. Chu Yang quickly rushed towards Su Luo yelling, "I'll help you." At this moment, Su Luo's sword flew out. Clang! A luminous glowing crystal shard fell to the ground. Su Luo bent over and picked it up. She found that it was a crystal shard in the shape of a hexagonal snowflake, radiating with a warm and sun-like aura, which subconsciously raised people's spirits. Chu Yang had already slaughtered the other 4-winged Ganyu beasts. Although he was powerful, he was not lucky. Chu Yang killed 3 in total, but did not manage to obtain any crystal shards. Compared to him, Su Luo possessed the goddess of luck, allowing her to obtain a crystal shard after just killing 1 beast. After the fight was rounded up, everyone looked at Su Luo eagerly. Sister Su is lucky. I didn't get it. I didn't get it either. I do not have either. Chapter 2364. Retribution 5. The 5-person team killed a total of 10 4-winged Ganyu beasts. However, for some mysterious reason, no one except for Su Luo had obtained any crystal shards. Sister Su, let me see, let me see. Xiao Luo dashed towards Su Luo, brimming with excitement as she tried to grab the crystal shards. A single crystal shard might not even drop after killing hundreds of 4-winged Ganyu beasts. You really are lucky, Su Luo. Chu Yang smiled and looked at Su Luo, a complex glint flashing across his eyes. It's all thanks to the captain for holding the other one in check. If not, I wouldn't get it with such ease. Su Luo didn't claim credit or be proud, and still smiled faintly. Senior sister, you swept a cold and arrogant gaze across Su Luo's face. Looking down on the crystal shard, she blurted out in a seemingly unintentional manner, "You are not strong enough, so it is best for you to give it to the captain for protection." Su Luo seemed startled. Xiao Luo quickly said cheerfully, That's right, Su Luo. This is worth 3 million points. Won't you feel bad about it if you were to lose it? Don't you see it's better to hand it to the captain? Chu Yang also smiled and said, I can trade you 3 million points on the spot if you need to quell your worries. Through her estimates, Su Luo was already a quasi-grandmaster. After her experience in the auction house, she no longer held 3 million points with much value anymore. However, Su Luo's eyes were half closed as she nodded. Okay, then let's trade now. A sneer flashed across Chu Yang's lowered eyes. Then the two people with their own ulterior motives made a deal on the spot. Chu Yang punched 3 million points on Su Luo's identity plate before taking away the crystal shard. Let's keep moving. Chu Yang was in a good mood, and with a wave of his hand, the team continued to move forward. Su Luo strangely discovered that Xiao Luo was in a better mood than Chu Yang, while a look of uncontainable excitement that was hard to conceal flashed within her eyes. This is really strange. Su Luo still couldn't figure it out for the time being. As time passed, the gazes everyone sent towards Su Luo grew increasingly weird. It was the 10th day of entering the Temple of the Abyss. In those 10 days, apart from eating and sleeping, everyone had been fighting with the four-winged Ganyu beasts. It was strange that everyone in the squad fought hard to kill the four-winged Ganyu, but none of them had obtained any crystal shards. On the contrary, it was Su Luo, who only chased one four-winged Ganyu every single time, who managed to obtain crystal shards as though she was shopping for them on a bustling market street. In these 10 days, Su Luo had obtained 5 crystal shards, while other people in the team got none, except for Chu Yang, who managed to obtain one through pure luck. Soon Su Luo's pockets were bulging. That was due to the 15 million points she had gotten from Chu Yang. This earning speed was really amazing, and was much faster than her earlier trip into the magical beast zone. During their day-to-day actions, Su Luo was always paying attention to and guarding Chu Yang and the others. Since the piece of bread she had eaten on the first day, Su Luo now already held the third piece of bread in her hand. Even though Su Luo had frequently managed to obtain crystal shards, Chu Yang decided to end Su Luo's life today, because they were already very close to the main hall of the temple. Su Luo took the bread and nibbled on it, one bite at a time. A sneer of disdain curled up at the corners of her mouth and lowered gaze. After eating this piece of bread, Su Luo's figure stiffened, then slowly fell backward, silently, as if she were dead. Everyone stopped while having the bread in their hands and formed a circle, looking at Su Luo, who fell to the ground with vigilant eyes. Chapter 2365, Retribution 6. Senior sister, you kicked Su Luo in the calf. Nevertheless, Su Luo didn't react at all. With a grin on her face, Xiao Luo bent down to check Su Luo's pulse. After a while, she withdrew her hands and announced loudly, well, this annoying woman is finally dead. At this time, where was the angelic smile of Xiao Luo? She looked like a little devil at the moment. I'm so exhausted from acting these days. It's not too late to kill her. At the very least, she helped us get 5 crystal shards. Chu Yang said with a smile. For more will do. Su Luo really is stupid. She actually sold the crystal shards to Brother Chu. And what's more, for only 3 million points. Ha ha ha. It's so ridiculous. Senior sister, you said in an overjoyed fashion. She's really too stupid. Those idiots only know that 10 crystal shards can merge into the heart of eternity. However, they don't know that taking the crystal shards to the spirit transformation pond in the center of the temple can aid the ascension of their light element. Xiao Luo kicked Su Luo in the foot in disgust. Xiao Luo, do you want to practice with these 6 pieces first? Sister, you asked. No. Let's collect all 10 pieces first, before going to the spirit transformation pond for refining. After that, Xiao Luo's eyes turned into crescent moons with glee. Each piece of crystal shard could ascend one's light element to the next level. When she gathered 10 pieces, her strength would rise immensely after she left the Temple of the Abyss. By that time, maybe Fairy Wuyo might not be able to match up to you, little girl. Senior sister, you poked Xiao Luo's forehead. Fairy Wuyo? Ah, Xiao Luo sneered. We've gotten a great deal out of this transaction. Both sides benefit. Big brother, how many points did Fairy Wuyo promise us? It turned out that Chu Yang was Xiao Luo's real brother. No wonder he was willing to take all the crystal shards to give to them to Xiao Luo to upgrade her strength level. Chu Yang stretched out a palm. 50 million points? It's not that cheap. Xiao Luo's gaze fell on Su Luo. How should we deal with this corpse? We can't take the corpse back, right? Troublesome. Forget it. Let's cut her head off and present it to Fairy Wuyo. Speaking of which, this was an easy 50 million. It only cost 3 pieces of bread. Senior sister, you laughed. 3 breads worth a grand total of 3 points, ha ha ha. Who would have thought that the top 100 on the dignified dragon list would be brought down with just 3 points? I don't get it. Isn't Fairy Wuyo very formidable? How could she be so afraid of Su Luo to the point of putting a 50 million point bounty on her life? We spent 3 points and got 50 million points. This profit margin. TSK TSK TSK. Senior sister, you found it hard to imagine. She originally thought it would take a lot of work to do this. Never did she expect them to complete this task with such ease. Don't talk nonsense and quickly dispose of this corpse. If not, I will not feel at ease in my heart. A sword suddenly appeared in Xiao Luo's hand. A bloodthirsty sneer appeared on her small face. She raised the cold sword high and slashed viciously at Su Luo's forehead. If this sword landed, Su Luo would have been dead for sure. At that moment, only a white light flashed by. Bang! Xiao Luo's sword smashed into the ground hard, leaving a huge gash on the ground. But there was no blood spatter, nor was there a head. Chapter 2366, Retribution 7. Even. Where is Su Luo? Where did she go? In an instant, everyone's eyes snapped wide open as they stared at the ground in disbelief. Just an instant ago, Su Luo's corpse was right before them. How could her body disappear in a split second? Could it be that they were duped? Or, is it possible that Su Luo wasn't dead in the first place? Lung Qi's cold voice rang out. He felt that a girl with an aura like that could not be easily poisoned to death. It's impossible. I took her pulse. She really was dead just now. She had no pulse, and her heart was not beating at all. Xiao Luo looked at the place where Su Luo had been lying in disbelief. Poof! The sound of a dagger piercing flesh sounded out. Big brother. Xiao Luo turned her head and saw a bright dagger sticking out from Chu Yang's neck. Without saying a word, she rushed forward and slashed randomly with cold steel. However, by the time Xiao Luo's sword came slashing out, the dagger had already disappeared. For a while, everyone was stunned as they looked at each other. Su Luo is still alive. Chu Yang's cold voice rang out at this moment. Brother, what evidence do you have? Xiao Luo looked solemnly at him. The person who attacked behind me just now is Su Luo, though she is invisible. Chu Yang's voice was incredibly steady as he explained the matter in an indifferent tone, stating the facts plainly. Xiao Luo, with your light element, you should know that there is a kind of invisibility potion. But how is it possible? She had obviously been poisoned. It should have left her limbs paralyzed. It is impossible for her to attack you, brother? Xiao Luo couldn't figure it out. Sister, you also said. There is no antidote to the scarlet blood poison, unless she can refine the Grandmaster potion on the spot. Therefore, her every move is under our control. Even if she has the strength to refine the antidote, there is no time for her to do so. Chu Yang looked at Xiao Luo silently. What if, say, she didn't ingest the poison in the first place? That's impossible. We all watched her munch down bite after bite on it. Xiao Luo paled and screamed. Truthfully, she is quick and clever. Furthermore, her strength has been completely unaffected. Chu Yang thought for a while and added. In fact, her current strength is even stronger than before. That is enough to show that she was putting up a false front from the very beginning. Brother, why are you so sure that the person who attacked you just now was Su Luo? Maybe it was the one who saved her. Xiao Luo stamped her foot. No, I remember the scent on her body. It is definitely her. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Chu Yang boiled with angry embarrassment, having been fooled by Su Luo. Then what shall we do now? Senior sister, you asked. In order to prevent further risks from delays, We will now escort Xiao Luo to the spirit pool in the center of the temple and promote her light element. As soon as she learns the Eye of Light, all stealth disguises will become useless. Then it won't be too late to kill Su Luo again. Chu Yang's thought process was still clear and logical despite the series of unexpected events. I know that my brother is the best. Xiao Luo held Chu Yang's arm intimately. Don't worry. When I learn the Eye of Light, I will definitely get rid of Su Luo once and for all. Just as everyone was going to the spirit transformation pond. Brother, what's the matter with you? Xiao Luo found that Chu Yang's body was extremely stiff, as if frozen in the ice. She couldn't help but have a thud in her heart. A chill descended on Chu Yang's back. Raising his head, he glanced at everyone silently, before uttering words that made everyone extremely angry. The crystal shards. Chapter 2367. Conspiracy 1. Chu Yang had an extremely bewildered look on his face as he stared fixedly at Xiao Luo. The crystal fragments, they're missing. Xiao Luo was so shocked she almost jumped up. The truth was that, aside from Su Luo, all of the members of this team knew the purpose of entering the Temple of Abyss this time was actually to improve Xiao Luo's abilities. It was not to condense the crystal fragments to make the Eternal Heart and hand it over for the mission reward. At this time, everyone, not only Xiao Luo, looked blankly at their team leader. How could the crystal fragments have disappeared? Didn't we spend 15 million points to buy it over from Su Luo earlier? Could it be that we lost it on the road here? Boss, why don't you look again? Even after talking back and forth, they did not touch on the main point. Truthfully, they all wanted to suspect if Boss had kept the fragments for himself. However, everyone knew the crystal fragments were for Xiao Luo Chu Yang's sisterto use, so there was no chance Boss would keep the fragments for himself. Chu Yang's brows were furrowed together tightly, but he said with a confident voice, "You guys don't need to guess anymore. The crystal fragments were likely stolen by Su Luo." Su Luo. Everyone gasped. Didn't Su Luo get poisoned? How could it be her? Exactly. She might not even be able to escape if she runs away now. How could she come back and steal the crystal fragments? Furthermore, boss, your abilities are so strong. How could Su Luo steal them from you? Facing the constant stream of questions, Chu Yang was starting to be overwhelmed. Ah, I got it. Xiao Luo's eyes suddenly lit up. Previously, when Su Luo tried to kill Big Brother but was stopped by me, her goal was not to kill him but to steal the crystal fragments. It was only after hearing Xiao Luo's statement that everyone finally understood what had happened. Xiao Luo angrily stomped the ground. This Su Luo is really too detestable. She hid her true strength on the journey here, and tricked us the whole time. She played us for fools. Precisely, Boss already paid her for these crystal fragments. Yet she not only took the points but also came back and stole what she had sold off. How vile. Chu Yang silently listened and gave a long sigh. Seeing his chaotic one teammates, he couldn't help but speak up out of fairness. Well, to be fair, we were deceiving her right from the start. What she has done is just paying us back for what we did to her. Big Brother, why are you standing up for her? Xiao Luo stomped her feet in anger. Chu Yang's face was full of fighting spirit as he ruffled his younger sister's hair. Don't worry. Big Brother will definitely help you get back your crystal fragments. I don't believe you. Xiao Luo scoffed. Earlier, when Su Luo was pretending to be dead, she heard everything we said. What if she secretly used the crystal fragments to cultivate? So what if she heard us? She has the wood and fire elements, not the light element. Chu Yang smiled. Since she doesn't have the light element, she can only gather 10 pieces of crystal shards and condense them to make the Eternal Heart for the purpose of being exchanged for points. Senior sister, you also consoled Xiao Luo. By then, we would already be waiting for her at the exit, so wouldn't Su Luo's crystal fragments be back in our possession? What do we do if Su Luo also has the light attribute? Xiao Luo furrowed her brows tightly. Immediately following her question, the other 3 members all laughed out loudly. PFT. You silly little girl, aren't you a bit too paranoid? Su Luo is a genuine fire and wood elements user. How could she also have the light element? How many people could there be in this world who possess the light element? Can't you have some confidence in yourself? Senior sister, you said. Chapter 2368. Conspiracy 2. However, there was no way these people could have known that Su Luo not only possessed the wood and fire elements, but also the space element as well as the light element, which she still had yet to cultivate at all. Meanwhile, over at Su Luo's side, after she successfully stole the crystal fragments from Chu Yang, Su Luo immediately ran away as her concealment potion would only conceal her for 15 minutes. Once this time was over, she would regain her original appearance. Su Luo had a very fast speed, so she practically flew towards the spirit transformation pond at the center of the temple. This was because what Chu Yang said previously let her realize that the crystal fragments could actually be so useful. Soon after, Su Luo could finally see the legendary spirit transformation pond. The spirit transformation pond was a football-sized pond. It was surrounded by finely crafted and vividly lifelike sculptures of all shapes and sizes. The most conspicuous one was a statue of a 10-winged angel that had their wings spread open, as if in flight. Their body emitted a pure and holy radiance, and gave people the feeling of being immersed in a spring breeze. Light gleamed in the clear and crystalline waves of the spirit transformation pond, and there was dense spiritual energy like that of the spirit realm. Su Luo gazed blankly at the spirit transformation pool. At this moment, there seemed to be a soft guiding voice in her mind directing her to enter. Thus, Su Luo walked step by step into the spirit transformation pool unconsciously. The pond's water level wasn't that high. It came to just above her waist. Su Luo took out a crystal fragment from her bosom and slowly placed it in the spirit transformation pool. Sizzle after that, a bunch of white lights immediately appeared and enveloped Su Luo. Currently, Su Luo had a languid feeling like that of bathing in the warm afternoon sunlight. She felt so comfortable that she became drowsy. Su Luo knew that the element of light had 9 stages of proficiency distinguished as low-tier mysteries of light, elementary light element, healing light, light movement technique, mid-tier mysteries of light, searing light, mirror cloning, force of judgment, high-tier mysteries of light, extreme light speed, light of disintegration, condensed mysteries. These 9 mysteries of light were split into 9 levels, going from low to high. However, there were extremely few people who possessed the light element in this world, so their abilities were generally not that strong. It was already excellent if they could cultivate to the level of mid-tier mysteries of light like Xiao Luo had done. That said, Xiao Luo had to spend several decades cultivating just to reach searing light. It was hard to tell what level Su Luo would be able to ascend to. At this moment, a line of information suddenly appeared in her mind. A soft voice announced, "Element of light beginning ascension. Elementary light element, first stage. Elementary light element, second stage. Elementary light element, third stage. Healing light, first stage." Su Luo could sense that her mind's battle with the light element only finally came to a stop when her cultivation reached the peak of the first level of healing light. At this instant, Su Luo felt that her mind was clearer than ever. It was as if her whole mind had been cleansed. Continue. The corners of Su Luo's mouth raised into a smile. Soon after, she placed the remaining 5 crystal fragments in the spirit transformation pool. Thus, the level of her light attribute skill started to increase again. Healing light, second stage. Healing light, third stage. Light movement technique, first stage. Light movement technique, second stage. Searing light, first stage. Searing light, second stage. Searing light, third stage. The light attribute charged to the very peak of searing light, before coming to a spontaneous stop. It was because Su Luo had already completely absorbed all of the energy in the crystal fragments. At this moment, Su Luo was so shocked that she was in a daze for a long while. Wasn't this ascension speed a bit too fast? How amazing! Chapter 2369. Conspiracy 3. For some time, Su Luo was somewhat dazed by this surprise. In fact, what Su Luo didn't know was that it was precisely because she had never cultivated her light attribute before, that her light attribute was still at its purest period, which was why her gains were so great this time. If the person immersed in the spirit transformation pond this time had been Xiao Luo, the gains she attained would definitely not be as great. In other words, Su Luo's previous delay in cultivating her light attribute was, for her, a great advantage. After this burst of surprise, Su Luo recovered her composure, and then walked out of the spirit transformation pond. In her heart she made up her mind. She had to get her hands on the remaining 4 crystal fragments. This promotion speed was truly too fast, way too fast. If I had gone to cultivate, it would have taken at least 10 years. Where would this kind of promotion that soared straight up had taken me now? Just at this time, Su Luo's ears twitched slightly. Soon, 5 small black dots appeared ahead of her. Could it be that Chu Yang and the others were coming over? Su Luo frowned and was just considering hiding. However, at that moment, her eyes shrank a fraction. No, it wasn't Chu Yang and the others. As these 5 little black dots drew nearer, Su Luo could see that the fabric on their bodies was as black as ink. All 5 of them were completely shrouded in black fabric. Black headscarves, black clothes, their entire figures looked like masses of ink. The aura of these few people gave Su Luo a very familiar feeling. They were the Thorn. Wasn't this the territory of the Genius Training Camp? How could there be members of the Thorn here? Su Luo felt somewhat confused for a moment. And then, just at this time, the other party had already discovered Su Luo. Su Luo's sixth sense was correct. That small team was indeed people from the Thorn. There were 5 of them, and they were also here at the Temple of the Abyss to complete a collection mission. It could be said that the Temple of the Abyss was just a location. It did not really belong to Purgatory City, nor did it belong to the Thorn. As long as one had the ability, anyone could come here and find treasure. The Thorn Captain 051's gaze was as sharp as a hawk's. With just a glance they saw Su Luo up ahead. Whenever the people of the Thorn came out for a mission, they all dressed in black. They would never wear regular clothes, so they knew the person up ahead was definitely from Purgatory City. The Thorn and Purgatory City have always been mortal enemies, as incompatible as fire and water. And so the Thorn Captain 051 looked at Su Luo, and a wry smile appeared in the depths of his eyes. Brothers, it seems that the dark fragments have not been found yet, and now we have other prey. Huh, boss, this woman looks a little bit familiar. I remember now. Didn't the Empress Queen once issue a certain death order? This girl looks very similar to the one in the image. Go closer and take a look. These few people rushed toward Su Luo. Su Luo took a look at them. Something wasn't right. These few people's eyes were all glued to me. There was definitely something wrong. Su Luo didn't think any further. She spread her feet and quickly ran away. Seeing Su Luo run, the few people behind only chased more desperately. One by one their speed soared high. The Su Luo, at this moment, truly felt like crying without tears. The heavens were indeed jealous of me being too happy. Just now my light attribute had been promoted so fast. And then a test had been given to me. By fortune, she had cultivated before the light movement technique, allowing a great improvement in her speed. Su Luo alternated the spirit dance steps with the light movement technique, and then teleportation. This was the only way she could barely avoid being chased down. Chapter 2370. Conspiracy 4. At this time, the Thorn team also had traces of surprise in their eyes. Captain 061 let out an exclamation. Who knew this girl's speed would actually be this fast? Boss, no matter how fast she is, she still can't be faster than you. A subordinate flattered him. Captain 061 coldly grunted. 062 encircle from the left. 064 intercept from the right. 066 and 068. Follow me and give chase. With this command, the original team split in 3, encircling Su Luo. Meanwhile, Su Luo didn't know of this matter. She only knew to run for her life. She absolutely had to get rid of these Thorn people. Su Luo still had a strong memory of back, when she was in the outer magical beast zone. There had been a Thorn assassin wearing black that had wanted to kill her. At this moment, Su Luo understood at last why Nangong Luyan absolutely had to go to the Thorn. Aside from going there to cultivate his darkness attribute, His biggest goal was to stop the thorn from hunting her down. It was only for the sake of this goal that his meetings with her had grown fewer, both of them separated in two different places. Just as Su Luo was running for her life, her communication amulet let out a buzzing vibration. Su Luo was very clear that this was the black communication amulet, and Nangong Luoyun was the only contact on it. Thinking of the previous mysterious female voice and the baffling words she had said, Su Luo's heart harbored a grudge against Nangong Luoyun. However, the most important thing was that she was close to being chased down, so there was no time to spare. But that communication amulet persevered, continuing to ring. A second time. A third time. Su Luo was truly helpless and had no choice but to pick up the communication amulet. Nangong Luoyun's anxious voice rang out. Luo Luo, you're being chased down again? The word again made Su Luo gnash her teeth, but there was nothing she could do. Su Luo wondered if this life of hers would always just be one of being chased with her life on the line? She clearly hadn't provoked the other people. Yet with just a glance, they wanted to kill her. Su Luo was about to die from misery. How did you know? Su Luo asked as she kept moving at a fast pace. I saw your coordinates changing rapidly. Nangong Luoyun gripped the communication amulet tightly. His long and fair jade-like fingers appeared white at the knuckle joints. He was thinking of Su Luo at every given moment. If it weren't for their communication amulets and the ability to grasp her coordinates, how could he be assured of her being alone in a cruel place like the Genius training camp? They're almost caught up to me. Can't talk anymore, Su Luo said and was about to hang up. Wait, report your side of the situation to me. Including the people, the number of people, their attributes, their camps, as well as their strengths. Nangong Luoyun's words were very fast and concise. Although he felt extremely anxious and worried, he presented himself with steadiness and calm, giving a sense of security like a towering mountain peak. Su Luo held a kind of blind trust towards Nangong Luoyun, as if the things that were especially difficult for her were a piece of cake when they fell into his hands. She didn't have time to think any further, so she quickly conveyed her situation, including the situation of Chu Yang and the others, as well as her plight with the Thorn team. Hearing about the Thorn team, a glimmer of light burst out from Nangong Luoyun's eyes, but Su Luo, on the other side of the communication amulet, couldn't see it. However, after not more than a minute's time, Nangong Luoyun passed a plan over to Su Luo. Remember, the most important thing right now is to stall for time and wait for me to get over there, Nangong Luoyun solemnly explained. Chapter 2371. Conspiracy 5. Hearing Nangong Luoyun's plan, Su Luo's eyes instantly sparkled as brightly as a clear starry sky, with the same kind of dazzle. He was indeed the black-bellied Nangong Luoyun with an extraordinary IQ. If I were to follow his plan, I might very well be able to deal with Chu Yang's team and wipe out the Thorn team. With the consolation of Nangong Luoyun, the tension in Su Luo's heart at this moment was reduced in half. Originally, Su Luo was heading east because that was a place she had never been before, and it was also a place without Chu Yang's team. Chu Yang's team was located to the north. Now Su Luo made a steep turn and her figure quickly sped towards the north. However, Su Luo tragically ran into the black-clothed 062. This black-clothed person had previously followed the captain's command, and was originally supposed to encircle Su Luo from the left, but now Su Luo had turned to the north, and so she ran into this black-clothed 062 face to face. Bang! Before the black-clothed man numbered 062 could come to his senses, Su Luo's endless attacks had already viciously smashed towards him. Gravitational space. Great dimensional imprint. Chunging sword. Column of flame. The little fox sable. Variant red acacia tree. Everything, all of Su Luo's trump cards instantly surged towards this 062 like a tidal wave. The pitiful black-clothed 062. His strength was above Su Luo's, but he was much slower to react, and so he suffered a huge loss. His head was covered and smashed by Su Luo, and by the time he came back to his senses, Su Luo had long ago run past him, leaving nothing but a tiny black Darn! The black-clothed man was so angry that he burst out cursing. At this time, the Thorn captain had already rushed over. You piece of waste. Can't even stop one person, yet you still have the face to curse here? Hurry and give chase. The captain's words had not fully left his mouth while he had already darted away wildly. Oh! At this time, 062 finally reacted and flew forwards. The poor 064 still didn't know that the group had already changed directions. He continued to chase towards the east by himself. This time, the direction Su Luo was heading towards was the direction of Chu Yang's team. Because Su Luo had been on this road before, she was very familiar with it. So much so that as she ran from east to west and all over the place, the Thorn team following behind for some time really had no way of dealing with her. Boss, could it be that she's looking for help? Seeing Su Luo like this, 062 held some doubts internally. The captain sneered. Who do you think would be stupid enough to come to this temple of the abyss by themselves? Idiot. Sure enough, they saw Su Luo fly towards a small team up ahead. When Chu Yang and the others saw Su Luo, they all became excited. This was called throwing oneself into the net, okay? Who could have expected that Su Luo, who had previously run away at an explosive speed, would actually run back here? Very good, Su Luo. Heaven has a path, but you refuse to take it. Hell has no door, yet you force your way in. Today is your death day. This is where you'll be buried. Chu Yang's team rushed towards Su Luo with their weapons one by one. However, at this time, Su Luo's sharp, piercing voice rang out. Boss, save me. The Thorn team's people chased me over here. They snatched the crystal fragments. Su Luo screamed as her footsteps stopped, and then continued to rush forwards. Chu Yang and the others hadn't reacted when they saw a string of people following behind Su Luo. It was a small team of 4 people. Each of their figures were wrapped tightly in black cloth, revealing only a pair of cold eyes, bursting out with a cold light that seemed to penetrate into people. Chapter 2372. Conspiracy 6. Xiao Luo angrily said, Su Luo, where did you provoke all of these people? Su Luo didn't answer and instead shouted angrily. The crystal fragments were snatched away by them. You still have the time to talk about other things? What? Xiao Luo's face instantly changed. She didn't really care about Su Luo. What she cared about the most were her crystal fragments. As soon as she heard that the crystal fragments were in the hands of the group in the back, Xiao Luo glared at the black-clothed figures. Chu Yang's team also all fixed their eyes on the black-clothed Thorn team in front of them. Hand over that girl. The Thorn team's captain's voice was icy cold. Hand over the crystal fragments. Xiao Luo shouted angrily. The Thorn team's captain's anger instantly burst out. Forget about them not wanting to hand over the person. They even dared to throw false accusations at us? How unreasonable was this? At this time, when the Thorn captain saw this group of people intercepting his own group halfway, while allowing Su Luo to run off far away, he felt extremely furious in his heart. Get out of the way. The Thorn captain shouted angrily. Hand over the crystal fragments. Chu Yang's team insisted. The Thorn captain was angered to the point of wailing. They actually dared to frame them? This was simply way too abominable. He felt that this group of people would let Su Luo escape even if it meant sacrificing themselves, so it was evident that they were the closest people to Su Luo. Who to kill but them? Brothers, charge. The Thorn captain didn't have the time to say anything else. With a wave of his hands, the group of black-clothed subordinates under his command burst forward one by one, with the fierceness and essence of dragons and tigers. The Thorn team, aside from the stray 064, numbered exactly 4 people. Chu Yang's team, aside from the Su Luo who had run far away, also numbered 4 people. 4 against 4. Both parties' strengths were similar, so they both fought directly against each other, to the point where they were difficult to separate. Su Luo had not actually run very far. She ran directly to the opposing cliff and lied there as she was laughing and watching this scene. Seeing that they were fighting intractably, Su Luo laughed uncontrollably, nearly bursting into laughter and pounding on the ground. How funny. Way too funny. Both sides were her enemies. Now that it was a dog-eat-dog situation, even if they weren't completely wiped out, as far as she was concerned, it was still a considerable weakening to their strengths. Just at this time, Su Luo's communication amulet vibrated a little. Su Luo subconsciously picked it up. Nangong? It's safe for now? Nangong saw that Su Luo's coordinates hadn't moved for a while, so he asked. Su Luo covered her stomach, laughing, as she told Nangong Luyan of the situation here. And at the end, she didn't forget to praise him. Your plan is too funny. It saves so much energy. I like it so much. The corners of Nangong Liuyun's mouth curled up slightly, but he still deliberately remained stern. What are you feeling proud of? They're not stupid. This kind of mistaking one will be figured out by them very soon. By that time, they'll most likely join forces to search for you. Su Luo stuck out her tongue. In fact, she had also thought of these circumstances. However, it would be such a pity to miss out on a good show like this. At this time, sure enough, Chu Yang seemed to figure something out and quickly called for a pause. After the pause, everyone explained their side, and this misunderstanding was finally cleared up. It turned out that Chu Yang's team's target was Su Luo. The Thorn team's target was also Su Luo. The two teams looked at each other, all of them chagrined at their brain-damaged actions from just now. Purgatory City and the Thorn are already old enemies. It's nothing for everyone to fight a little, Chu Yang said with a smile. However, now that both of us have come down here to complete missions, if we waste time on an unnecessary fight like this, it's truly not worth the loss. What do you think? Chu Yang's last sentence was a question directed at the Thorn captain. Chapter 2373. Conspiracy 7. The Thorn captain also felt that he was made a fool of by Su Luo just now, and was especially embarrassed. He pulled a long face and snorted coldly. What do you want? We work together but also alone. How do you feel about that? Chu Yang said. How would we work together but also alone? The Thorn captain expressed some interest. Your mission is to find the dark heart. Our mission is to find the eternal heart. Everyone minds their own business, and each of us finds what we need to find, Chu Yang suggested. The Thorn captain nodded. But if we happen to manage to find a dark fragment, you can buy it from us, or use crystal fragments to exchange with us. Vice versa for your side. How about it? Chu Yang said. Chu Yang's proposal was really not bad. It was mutually beneficial, a win-win for everyone. Anyone else would have agreed. But there was a major premise to take into consideration here. The Thorn and Purgatory City were completely at odds with each other. If news of their cooperation got out, those involved wouldn't be able to continue living within their own factions. Don't worry. Nobody will say anything about our cooperation. Chu Yang was extremely confident about this. It doesn't matter even if that Su Luo sees us work together since she's going to die. Even if she didn't die, who would believe it if she spread the news after she got out? This proposal isn't bad. The Thorn captain nodded his head in satisfaction. If the other party found the dark heart, it would save the Thorn team a lot of time on their job. But they didn't know that this matter was currently being recorded by someone. Chu Yang would never have imagined that not only did Su Luo see and hear them talking, but she also recorded it. It had to be known that when Su Luo was at the auction earlier, she had obtained an ancient crystal tree. She had planted that ancient crystal tree inside her space, and the tree had long since taken root, sprouted and produced fruits. As this was the first time that the tree bore fruit, there weren't many fruits, just two. It had to be known that crystal fruits had memory capabilities. To put it into modern terms, it functioned like a camera. Thus, Chu Yang and the Thorn cooperation was entirely recorded. The best part was that she even captured Chu Yang and the Thorn captain shaking hands and smiling brightly in plain sight. However, the sound of the recording was quite muffled because the recording was made from quite a distance away. Nevertheless, the more muffled it was, the more the scene would speak for itself. If you didn't know the truth, you'd think Chu Yang was betraying Purgatory City. Su Luo definitely wanted it to give that impression. Poor Chu Yang. Right now he was smiling happily, but if he had the chance to return to Purgatory City, he would find that what awaited him was an endless trial. Of course, that was something for later. Right now Su Luo was still in danger. Furthermore, she was in more danger than ever before. Back when she was on the run, There was only one attacker trying to pursue and kill her. However, now out of the 10 members of the Temple of the Abyss, 9 of them wanted her dead. Su Luo, who said that she was the illegitimate daughter of the goddess of fortune? She was clearly the murderer of the goddess of misfortune's father and enemy. Su Luo had no more time to ridicule them, because she was about to carry out her second objective. Due to Nangong Luyan having long since given her the procedures and plans, she was able to work methodically, logically, and strictly. Once the two teams up ahead finished discussing and making their promises to each other, they left. This presented Su Luo with a very good opportunity. Chapter 2374. Intense Conflict 1. After Chu Yang's and the Thorns teams reached a common agreement, the two groups departed, each going their own way. But how could they ever know that Su Luo had already recorded all their actions? Su Luo didn't waste time, and swiftly went away after they left. Her objective wasn't any of them, but the black-clothed person, 064, who had strayed from the Thorn team. This black-clothed 064 was pitiful. Everybody had already gathered long ago, while he was the only one still wandering around in a daze. Su Luo let Little Fox Sable open the map. Little Fox Sable had inherited Little Purple Sable's automatic pathfinding capabilities. So even though Su Luo didn't have a map on hand, the map of the Temple of the Abyss in the Little Fox Sable's mind was clearer than anyone else's. Using the map Little Fox Sable shared with her, Su Luo scanned the overall situation, carefully looking over the map once. The shared map ability was the product of the spiritual pet fusion, and had given Su Luo great benefits. Now she was looking at a small red dot in the distance to the south. That small red dot was all alone. The objective was extremely clear. Who could it be besides 064? And what put Su Luo in a great mood was that 064 was speeding toward her position right now. The Thorn captain had probably already contacted him, calling him back. Su Luo thought. If I were to let 064 return to the Thorns group, I would no longer be able to contend with their strength. So if I want to take him down, it needs to be before he rejoins the group. Su Luo's current greatest advantage was Little Fox Sable's shared map. Through this map, Su Luo could accurately know everybody's whereabouts. 064 was rushing over to where Su Luo was, and at the same time, Su Luo was also quickly heading to his position. After Su Luo advanced for 2 hours, she came across a corner at the end of the path. This place was extremely well hidden. It was in a blind spot. When 064 rushed over, he would need to turn a corner there. That was the ambush spot Su Luo chose. As long as 064 dropped his alertness by even a fraction, he would very likely fall into the trap. The black-clothed person rushed by without any obstacles in his way. He never would have even imagined that Su Luo had a complete map and knew everyone's positions, so he probably wasn't on high alert. Su Luo took out a green porcelain bottle from her space. Then she aimed at the street corner, and poured out bits of powder on the ground here and there. She threw it all over the place in a seemingly disorganized manner, but it was actually the result of her precise calculations. The powder was a light green color, but it couldn't be made out at all in the darkness of night. Moreover, it didn't have any scent, so noticing it was very unlikely. After finishing the ambush, Su Luo's lips curled into a smile while she looked at the map. Right now, the small red dot on the map was very close. It would arrive in just about 10 minutes. Su Luo's figure quickly flashed to the shadow at the end of the path. She stuck her body close to the wall, and it was as if her whole body was enveloped in darkness. Her original vividness was adjusted to a minimum at this moment, such that even the sound of her heartbeat was suppressed to its lowest. She was completely silent, almost without any sign of life. Soon, Su Luo counted silently. 5 kilometers. 3 kilometers. 1 kilometer. 500 meters. 300 meters. 100 meters. She could see him get closer and closer. Chapter 2375. Intense Conflict 2. Su Luo's heartbeat and breathing were synchronized. Her body entered a state of urgency, with all her abilities ready to be unleashed at any moment. A fight was on the verge of breaking out. As the black-clothed person rushed over, he only encountered magical beasts. So why would he expect a person to attack him? Furthermore, what was the likelihood that this person would be the target he had pursued and captured previously? Consequently, he wasn't on very high alert. Just as he was about to turn the corner, his body was immediately enveloped in a gravity space. In an instant, his speed and attack power were greatly weakened. Su Luo had long since prepared for this. How could she possibly give him time to catch his breath? One could only see her rapidly dishing out her skills, with her fingers swiftly dancing. Fire element, wood element, little fox sable, plant pet. All that Su Luo had learned, all that she possessed, and all of her trump cards, she dealt them all out at this moment. 062 had previously tasted Su Luo's wild assault, and even he couldn't endure it. So how could 064 endure it this time? Even more so when he had completely let his guard down at this moment? Number 064 could only defend himself from the wild beating. How could he have room to retaliate? He was in fact stronger than Su Luo. However, it was unfortunate that after receiving Su Luo's wild attack, he could only defend himself desperately. Finally, the handle of Su Luo's Chungying sword smashed downwards. 064 was knocked into a daze. His eyes swirled like mosquito coils, and his body went limp before slowly toppling to the ground. Very good success. Su Luo excitedly clapped her hands, and a hint of slyness appeared in her eyes. She originally thought she would need to spend more of her effort. Who knew that he would be taken down so easily? But Su Luo knew that this success relied on the luck of having the element of surprise. If she were to fight him head-on one-on-one, she would definitely sustain severe injuries. By taking down 064, Su Luo was already halfway to success. She didn't have any plans to kill him. She just knocked him out in preparation for the next step. Su Luo dragged 064 to a corner and stripped him of his clothes, including the scarf around his head. All the garments 064 had worn were now on Su Luo. She patted out the shoes and widened her shoulders and waist. Then she put on the black clothes, black scarf, and black headscarf. The most important thing was the number plate she affixed to her waist. When Su Luo looked at herself, she saw an almost exact copy of the original number 064. If the two weren't side by side, it would be very difficult to tell the difference. After hiding number 064, her figure swiftly vanished into the vast darkness of the night. Su Luo was extremely fast, merely a flash in the darkness. In Chu Yang's group, the only ones Su Luo could bully were Xiao Luo and senior sister Yu. These two people were both weaker than her, but the weakest was undoubtedly Xiao Luo. Su Luo was lucky. By following the white dot on the map, she found Xiao Luo. Then the map in Su Luo's mind was separated into small white dots and small red dots. The small white dots represented Chu Yang's group, and the small red dots represented the Thorns group. Right now, Chu Yang's group had completely dispersed within a radius of approximately 310.7 miles. Su Luo first reached out to Xiao Luo. Xiao Luo was currently using the light of searing heat to fight. Su Luo had also advanced her light element to this rank, but she had never used it before. So she wasn't eager to engage in battle, and instead hid in the darkness to carefully observe. Su Luo saw a staff appear in Xiao Luo's hand, and light flew out wherever the staff pointed, encircling the target Xiao Luo was fighting. Chapter 2376. Intense Conflict 3. Along with Xiao Luo's searing light, these small bits of light rapidly became stream after stream of scorching hot flames, which swiftly plunged into the target. Imagine hundreds of thousands of small lights, all carrying the endless power of scorching heat, all piercing through the body. Wasn't that just a terrible thing? Then, the four-winged Ganyu beast in front of Xiao Luo shrieked pitifully. Its body was covered in fur, so its whole body was burning erratically like a phoenix. The flames soared and heat surged. The four-winged Ganyu beast writhed in the sea of flames, roaring and howling. Under the glowing light of the fire, there was a strange and wicked joy in Xiao Luo's eyes, like the most terrifying demon, that would shock anyone who saw. Crackle, a slight sound rang out. Xiao Luo's reaction was especially quick. After hearing the sound, Her figure flashed, and when she reappeared, a shiny object had already appeared on her right hand. Needless to say, that was the crystal fragment. Su Luo didn't think she would be so lucky, for there to be a crystal fragment she could take just as she arrived. Right now, Xiao Luo was looking at the crystal fragment in her hand emotionally. This was the first crystal fragment she got after being in here for days. I like it very much. Xiao Luo could not keep her hands off the crystal fragment as she lovingly played with it in her hands. She could not wait to tell her big brother about it. But after thinking about it, she decided to restrain herself. Let's put it away first. Wait until I've collected more, before presenting them dramatically at the last moment. That would be much better. Thus, Xiao Luo proudly placed the crystal fragment into her pouch, then carefully placed her pouch to her chest, snugly hiding it well. Su Luo decided that she would get the crystal fragment from Xiao Luo's hands. As for how to get it, Su Luo smiled unsettlingly. Su Luo's figure flashed, quickly reaching behind Xiao Luo. Just as Xiao Luo was gleefully battling the four-winged Ganyu beast, Su Luo suddenly attacked Xiao Luo. Bang! Xiao Luo, who was caught off guard, went staggering from Su Luo's blow. Xiao Luo's figure swayed. She stood up straight with difficulty, and turned her head back. But during this time, the black-clothed person Su Luo disguised into flashed behind Xiao Luo. The two people collided, and her hands swiftly took away the pouch that was carefully hidden by Xiao Luo. If it were other people, they may not necessarily think that the crystal fragment was hidden inside the pouch, but Su Luo had been observing from the start, seeing Xiao Luo's every movement with her own two eyes. So it was inevitable that the crystal fragment was stolen from her. After taking the small pouch, Su Luo swiftly swapped out the crystal fragment, stuffing in a similar jade pendant in exchange. Xiao Luo only saw the shadow of a black-clothed person, then felt her chest. Not good. At this time, Xiao Luo happened to see senior sister Yu coming over, and happened to see the black-clothed person quickly brushing past senior sister Yu. So she hastily fished out her communication amulet. Senior sister Yu, that black-clothed person stole my crystal fragment. Stop him. Quickly. Senior sister Yu reacted quickly. She stuck out her right leg, trying to trip the black-clothed person. However, Su Luo was prepared, and she sprinted away from senior sister Yu after she leapt past her. Senior sister Yu reacted instantly. Feeling annoyed, and without any time to think too much, she slashed at the sleeve of the black-clothed person. Psst. The blade trailed across the right sleeve in an instant, leaving a clear gash on the fabric. However, because the black-clothed person evaded quickly, only the sleeve was damaged. Su Luo herself wasn't harmed in the slightest. Chase him. Xiao Luo had already rushed over, closely pursuing along with senior sister Yu. Chapter 2377. Intense Conflict 4. When did you encounter the crystal fragment? Senior sister Yu's eyes wrinkled slightly. Was it so hard to understand the captain's words? Was that why Xiao Luo didn't obey them? Their captain had said before that if anyone found a crystal fragment, they had to hand it over to him quickly. Otherwise, it would be very unsafe because aside from their Chuyang team, there was also the Thorn team. Although the two teams were coexisting peacefully for the time being, they could not let down their guard towards each other. Xiao Luo was so angry that her little face turned red. She kept silent about the major mistake she'd made, and brought attention to her minor mistake of letting the crystal fragment get won. Just now, I'd just gotten my hands on it, and it was snatched by that damn black-clothed person. Senior sister Yu gave her a suspicious look. So, the black-clothed person had been watching from your side the whole time, purposely making a move on you only when you got the crystal fragment. Damn Thorn team. Curse that black-clothed person. Just wait until we catch him. This lady will definitely skin him. Xiao Luo ground her molars and vowed. Actually, senior sister Yu wanted to say something else, but before she could say anything, she was glared at by Xiao Luo. Is it more important for us to be chasing him now, or to be squabbling with words? At this time, Xiao Luo was like an impetuous little lion, with all of her anger and hatred displayed on her face. Xiao Luo picked up the communication amulet, and hurriedly told everyone about the current situation. When Chu Yang and Leng Qi heard it, they thought, what? The Thorn team had actually betrayed the agreement between the two teams? This was outrageous. Give chase, Chu Yang ordered, and the whole team went after the black-clothed person. But because Su Luo was running very fast, by the time she reached the place where the black-clothed person was unconscious, Xiao Luo and the others hadn't caught up with her yet. So Su Luo helped return the black clothes back to the black-clothed person, and put all of them on him neatly. When Su Luo saw the gash cut by the sword Qi on the right sleeve of the black clothes, there was a wry smile in her eyes. Who would have thought that she had left this mark on purpose? After helping the black-clothed person, Su Luo woke him up with a slap, and then she hid herself far away because the upcoming development of events didn't require her to intervene for the time being. As for the crystal fragment, Su Luo did not take it back for now. Otherwise, it would have inadvertently alerted Chu Yang's team that something was too. However, Su Luo asked the little fox Sable to remember the aura of 060 for this black-clothed person so that it would be much easier to find him later on. The black-clothed person leisurely woke up and saw that he was actually sleeping against a corner. His body subconsciously jumped up. Fwoosh fwoosh fwoosh, his sword danced swiftly, protecting himself in an impenetrable fashion, as he set up a fighting posture. However, the night wind blew past. A leaf fluttered and floated down. There wasn't any enemy appearing. The black-clothed person. He lowered his head and looked left and right but found that there didn't seem to be any changes on himself, except that the fabric on his right sleeve was torn up a bit. The black-clothed person thought about it but only felt dizzy, and he couldn't recall anything from before. Of course, he couldn't remember. This was because Su Luo had used the light of healing technique on him to clear a small part of his previous memories. The current Su Luo could only do this much. But it was just right for this situation. The black-clothed person didn't remember why he was sleeping here. Nor did he know that Su Luo had already done something spectacular with his clothes. The black communication amulet moved. The black-clothed person picked up the communication amulet. The angry voice of the Thorn team's captain was heard from it. Regroup at once. Coming. A cold breeze blew by, instantly sending a chill down this 064's spine. The black-clothed person put away his communication amulet and swiftly headed towards his team. Chapter 2378. Intense Conflict 5. However, before he even took a few steps, he was surrounded by 4 people. Needless to say, these 4 people were the members of Chu Yang's team. When Xiao Luo saw the black-clothed person, she was immediately unable to restrain her anger, and almost jumped up in a rage. You deceitful bastard! Quickly give the crystal fragment back to me. The eyebrows of the black-clothed person knitted together tightly. Senior sister, you sneered. You've got a lot of guts. You actually dared to hang around here by yourself. Aren't you afraid that we'll make a move? Chu Yang showed an unhappy expression. So your captain's an unscrupulous scoundrel who goes back on his words? The black-clothed person looked at this group of people from Purgatory City, and anger flooded into his chest. The pitiful black-clothed person had no idea that his own team's captain had already made a peaceful and friendly agreement with Chu Yang. So he took out his communication amulet and reported to his captain. Captain, the people from Purgatory City called you an unscrupulous scoundrel who goes back on his words. The captain of the Thorn team. What happened? They're besieging me. The black-clothed person was always concise and comprehensive in describing situations. What? The expression of the Thorn team's captain immediately darkened. Feeling there must be more to this situation, he asked. Why are they besieging you? A fragment of the dark heart is in my possession, the black-clothed person answered truthfully. The most valuable thing in his possession was this fragment of the dark heart. So, he assumed that the opposing party must be wanting to steal it away out of greed. When the captain of the Thorn team heard this, he immediately smacked the several tens of meters tall cylindrical pillar in anger. Suddenly, the support pillar that held up the small palace collapsed with a bang, instantly raising it to the ground. What the Chu Yang team, this bunch of bastards. You're the ones who went back on your words. You're the unscrupulous ones. You dare steal what's mine and slander me instead. You're turning the world upside down. Your current coordinates? The captain of the Thorn team was so angry his chest almost exploded. The black-clothed person hurriedly began to relay his current location. However, how could the Chuyang team let him do so? As such, the four people worked together to unleash an extremely strong destructive power. Although the black-clothed person's skills weren't bad, how could he possibly be a match for the members of Chuyang's team? That said, he wasn't so dumb as to try and endure this attack. He instantly dashed toward the Thorn team at lightning speed. His speed was really fast, but the speed of the Chuyang team chasing him wasn't slow either. The sight of the surrounding buildings flitted across on both sides like ghosts while the piercingly cold wind of the night brushed across their ears. The black-clothed person had to run and defend against the attacks of the Chuyang team simultaneously. His back was already covered in many wounds, but he still gritted his teeth and persevered desperately. This was all from the survival training he did in the Thorn. Thorn's training was no worse than hell. The people who could walk out from there alive had much stronger willpower to endure hardships than those from any other organization. The black-clothed person was on his last breaths, but he still held on tenaciously. This was because his captain had told him that they would be able to meet up very soon. The moment the people beside the Thorn's captain heard of 064's unfortunate encounter, each one of them became filled with indignant righteousness and the urge to kill the members of the Chuyang team. They wanted to eliminate the latter entirely. Captain, there's simply none good in Purgatory City. That's right, Captain. They're actually trying to steal our fragment of the Dark Heart. The nerve of them. Captain, let's quickly go save 064. They have 4 people on their side. 064 definitely won't be able to hold out. The expression of Thorn Team's captain became increasingly dark, ultimately becoming so dark that it was comparable to a pot-baked pancake one. Stop. When the Thorn Team's captain arrived, he was just in time to see Xiao Luo's searing light that wildly violent strike smash into 064. Chapter 2379, Intense Conflict 6. Presently 064 was already very weak. If he were to be hit by this attack, he would definitely die. So, the Thorn's captain instantly took action without even thinking about it. A black beam of light shot out rapidly from his index finger toward the searing light. In an instant, the black light engulfed the white light, making it disappear completely. Then, the black light pressed on straight toward Xiao Luo. Hit with the backlash and retaliation from using searing light, Xiao Luo shrieked suddenly. Her face became deathly pale, and her body dripped with sweat. She felt so hot that it seemed like she was about to self-immolate. Chu Yang's heart ached greatly upon seeing his younger sister experience such pain. He pulled her onto his back and charged furiously toward the Thorn team. First, the Thorn team stole the crystal fragment belonging to Chu Yang's team. After that, they even attacked Xiao Luo. Even if Chu Yang had the best of tempers, he would still explode with anger at this moment. Consequently, Chu Yang and 061, the Thorn team's captain, had a rapid exchange of blows and engaged in an intense battle. Nearby, Su Luo was watching this whole scene. She was as happy as a mouse upon finding food. If her circumstances allowed it, she would certainly be smacking the ground while bursting into loud laughter. This was too fun. It was undeniably fun. How long had it been since the two teams decided on an amicable and mutually beneficial agreement of cooperation? Yet so soon after, they've swiftly become hostile, fighting as irreconcilable adversaries. Keep fighting. It would be best if you fought until someone died. That way, you'd really be able to fight until your last breath. Su Luo cheered them on inwardly. While Chu Yang and the captain of the Thorn team fought, the other people weren't simply idling around either. Caught up in an irresolvable situation, they each found an opponent and fought until the skies darkened. For a period of time, the area was filled with a chaotic atmosphere and the sounds of abruptly rising conflict. Su Luo wanted to leave, but there were people fighting all around her, making it rather difficult for her to do so. It would be easy for her to leave if she used her concealment potion, but she only had 2 bottles of it left, so she wouldn't use it unless she was in a dire situation. As a bystander, Su Luo could see the scene very clearly. There were 4 people in the Thorn team. There were also 4 people in Chu Yang's team. It was a tie at the start of the battle, but as time passed by, the momentum of the battle gradually fell out of Chu Yang's team's favor. This was because they had a deadweight Xiao Luo. Chu Yang was extremely furious. If they still had those 6 crystal fragments from before, and if Xiao Luo had studied them, she wouldn't be holding them back like she was now. Chu Yang hated Su Luo to death. He was very clear on the fact that if they continued fighting like this, it would only be a matter of time before they lost. Consequently, Chu Yang seized the opportunity to speak up while neither team had yet to lose a member, and their hostility had yet to turn into hatred of mortal enemies. He said clearly, 061. What do you mean by all this? I haven't even brought up the matter of how you members of Thorn robbed us. Yet you've been trying to kill us the moment you got here. Is this how Thorn works? 061's rage had initially cooled down while they fought, but hearing Chu Yang's words now, his rage was instantly ignited once again. What nonsense! It was clearly you, the Chu Yang team, that chased and tried to kill our team member for something in his possession. Now you even dare to slander us with such an accusation. How vile! When he finished talking, 061's offensive became even fiercer, pushing Chu Yang to retreat over and over. After hearing 061's response, Chu Yang exclaimed, "That's not right. It was clearly your team member who stole my younger sister's crystal fragment. That's why we chased him after that. We just wanted to take back the crystal fragment." Rubbish, 061 said. Unwilling to accept the blame, he countered. It was clearly because you guys wanted to steal the dark heart fragment in my team member's possession. That's why you tried to kill him. Suddenly, the 2 people exchanged glances and saw a strange expression in each other's eyes. Chapter 2380. Intense Conflict 7. Could it be that they'd been tricked by someone? Stop for now. Number 061 yelled loudly. It's a ceasefire. Chu Yang shouted in a clear voice. Following the call for a ceasefire from both team captains, all the people caught up in the irresolvable fight came to a stop despite still being unbearably angry. Number 061 ran swiftly over to that feeble-breathed number 064 and shouted out a question. Did you take their crystal fragment? Number 064 face filled with confusion. Then he shook his head. Liar. You're clearly the person who stole my crystal fragment. Xiao Luo got so angry that she was practically stomping. The cut my sword made in your right sleeve shows clearly that it was you. The captain of the Thorn team unconsciously reached toward number 064's arm. There was indeed the mark of a sword having slashed across 064's shoulder. Indeed. Number 061's eyes narrowed as he reached into number 064's hidden chest pocket. That thin ice-cold fragment was lying there quietly. For a split second, there was a complicated expression in number 061's eyes. Upon seeing that, the tension in Chu Yang's gaze eased a little. He said calmly, Number 061. Do you remember our agreement to have an amicable cooperation? What amicable cooperation? Number 064's looked at his captain bewilderedly. Number 061 suddenly regained his senses at this moment. How could he have forgotten about that? Number 064 hadn't actually been present when they made the agreement, so he had no idea that his own team had done such a thing. In other words, if number 064 had ambushed and robbed Chu Yang's team of their crystal fragment, that would have been due to the hostile relationship between the Thorn Guild and Purgatory City. This meant that it wasn't inherently wrong. Number 061? Chu Yang looked at number 061 nonchalantly, shifting his gaze to the latter's hand. Number 061 slowly withdrew his hand from number 064's chest pocket and unfolded his palm. There was nothing on it. There was a slight sense of shock in Chu Yang's expression. Number 061 sneered. There's no crystal fragment. In other words, you were slandering my team member, and you even tried to kill him? The thing number 061 wanted to confirm was whether Su Luo had made a fool out of him. This was because he, like Chu Yang, suspected that there was a third party interfering and pulling the strings from behind the scenes. However, number 061 had just found verification on number 064's body that he was the one, not Su Luo in disguise, who had attacked and stolen from Xiao Luo. For number 061, knowing this was enough. Chu Yang and the others had initially been waiting for the captain of the Thorn team to hand over the crystal fragment, but now, it appeared that he wasn't going to do so. Number 061 knew that although his side would win this intense conflict, Chu Yang's team would inflict serious damage on them. In that case, the gains truly wouldn't make up for the losses his team would suffer for this mission. You have two choices now. Number 061 looked at Chu Yang coldly. Die in battle. Or will you get lost? The expressions of everyone on Chu Yang's side turned sour. Why were they being accused and berated like this? When had they ever suffered such humiliation? At this moment, all of their gazes focused on Chu Yang. Each line of sight was like a sword piercing through him. Chu Yang hesitated, and then hesitated some more. His arm hung tensely by the side of his body as he clenched his fist tight. The protruding cyan veins on his hand were enough to show his inner torment. Big brother. Xiao Luo tugged at Chu Yang and gazed at him pleadingly. My crystal fragment. The crystal fragment that had been so difficult for them to find. Big brother, we can't go. My crystal fragment. Xiao Luo pleaded persistently. The crystal fragment had been stolen from my hand. I couldn't simply leave like this. I truly couldn't. Chapter 2381. By chance 1. However, Chu Yang gently pushed Xiao Luo away. He took in a deep breath and yelled loudly. Let's go. After that, Chu Yang took the lead for their exit. Senior Sister Yu and the others looked at each other in dismay before ultimately shaking their heads and leaving too. Actually, their boss decision was right. Since both sides would suffer, what was the point of pointlessly sacrificing their lives? Nevertheless, they certainly felt sullen about it. Yet at this moment, Su Luo was the most depressed among them. She had gone through so much effort to get them to kill each other, but now, they were just going to leave like that? Wasn't this merely a waste of all her efforts? Especially when she was so close to getting what she wanted. Right when Su Luo was feeling vexed, the captain of the Thorn team said 2 words. Hang on. Chu Yang turned around resentfully. You, 061 said coldly while pointing at Xiao Luo. Come over here. Even ordinary people would get angry upon facing that arrogant and bossy manner. Let alone Xiao Luo, who was a pampered young lady that had never experienced any hardships before. Xiao Luo looked at her older brother sullenly without taking a single step. Chu Yang stepped in front of Xiao Luo defensively and raised his eyes toward 061. What are you trying to do? If you heal him, our previous grudge will be written off. 061 pointed at the barely breathing 064 who was lying on the ground. After all, in the aspect of medical treatments, the Thorn had always been inferior to Purgatory City. Moreover, Xiao Luo was a light mage, so she had earned healing techniques long ago. While Chu Yang was still considering the offer, Xiao Luo complacently took over and smirked. You think I'll heal him just because you tell me to? Who the heck are you to me? Initially, she was already resentful toward the Thorn team. But now 061 was rudely pointing at her and ordering her to heal 064? She felt so indignant about it. 061 didn't bother with her and stared straight at Chu Yang while saying his words slowly one by one. You were the ones who injured him. If anything happens to him, we're fighting to the death today. After throwing out this line, 061's ice-cold gaze swept over the faces of Chu Yang, Xiao Luo, Senior Sister Yu, and Leng Qi one by one, engraving their features in his mind. The meaning of his words was very clear. If they couldn't save 064, they would be fighting to the end. If this were on a normal day, there wouldn't be much to it. However, they were both doing a mission at the moment. If they were to fight it out now and die in mutual destruction, that would just be a total joke. Do you have the confidence that you can heal him? Chu Yang looked at Xiao Luo. If Xiao Luo didn't have the confidence to do so, they were better off forgetting about it. If she treated 064 badly and killed him instead, 061 would blame it on them, and that would just cause them a whole lot of trouble. The outer corners of Xiao Luo's eyes raised up complacently in a contemptuous sneer. They're just some external wounds. My healing light has already reached the point of perfection. How could I not be able to heal such superficial wounds? Seeing Xiao Luo speak with complete confidence, 061 finally let out a sigh of relief, and his tone got nicer. As long as you heal him, you can leave. Additionally, the business agreement we made previously will still stand. Xiao Luo was arrogant, but she knew this was a critical situation. So under the pressure of the earnest hopes and expectations of her teammates, she walked over to 64 anyway in spite of her bad mood. The atmosphere became unprecedentedly harmonious at this time. However, that wasn't the case for Su Luo, who was hiding behind a wall. Her mood wasn't very good at all. She'd rushed about busily, calculating this and that, before she finally managed to get the two teams into an intense conflict where they fought like irreconcilable adversaries. Yet with just a brief conversation, they were now in a ceasefire and reconciling, as well as continuing to keep their agreement in effect? What the heck was this? These thoughts meant that Su Luo didn't approve of this situation. And if Su Luo didn't approve of it, that meant there would be very grave consequences. This was because she still had many hidden cards in her hand. A crafty sneer like that of a fox flashed past her eyes, and her right hand spread open. A white jade bottle the size of a little finger appeared on her palm at this moment. Chapter 2382. By chance, too. Su Luo didn't have the time to consider it further, so she just went ahead and opened the white jade porcelain bottle. With her head tilted back, she downed the brown liquid from the bottle in one shot. This bottle contained the concealment potion, which would only be effective for 15 minutes. After drinking it, Su Luo very quickly realized her body had become transparent. Under the illumination of the moonlight, she initially had a very long shadow stretching out behind her, but now, this shadow had completely disappeared. Very good. Su Luo's lips spread into a smile. She took a deep breath and then quietly approached 064. How could Su Luo possibly let Xiao Luo save 064? And how could she possibly let the two teams reconcile? At this time, Xiao Luo was indifferently using healing light to heal 064's injuries. It had to be said that Xiao Luo still had a child's temperament. She was still feeling angry even while healing 064. So, even though she could definitely use a simple method to heal him, she deliberately chose a method that would cause him unbearable pain. 064 was in so much pain that his complexion became bloodlessly pale, and he was squirming about on the ground. 061 constantly had his gaze on Xiao Luo. He wanted to speak up several times, but ultimately restrained himself. Xiao Luo was feeling extremely complacent. Weren't you all arrogant and bossy to me just before? If you have what it takes, come on. Come and scold me now. See if I won't cause him to die from pain. When she recalled how the person before her, 064, had stolen her crystal fragment, a sinister expression flashed past her eyes briefly. 061 was looking at her at this very moment. This is a great opportunity. Su Luo cheered inwardly. Right then Su Luo, who had consumed the concealment potion, was already near 064. It was just that Xiao Luo was in front of 064, while Su Luo was behind him. Su Luo had gotten such a good opportunity. If she didn't use it, she wouldn't be Su Luo. The corners of her lips lifted to form a crafty grin. Then she unleashed a healing technique that was also of the light attribute onto 064. However, even though both Xiao Luo and Su Luo were both using healing techniques, Su Luo's technique brought about unstoppable death. Her dot of light invaded 064's body and wantonly destroyed his internal organs. Su Luo was currently invisible, so no one could see her. Additionally, because the technique she used was also of the light attribute, no one noticed her. Consequently, Su Luo used the light attribute to wreak havoc in 064's body. Moreover, as Xiao Luo was filled with anger and a desire for revenge, she had already been oppressing 064 with unbearable pain. So no one even suspected anything was amiss when Su Luo made her move. All of that made it easier for Su Luo to put her plan into motion. As the concealment potion was only effective for 15 minutes, Su Luo did it in the shortest time possible, and soon achieved the result she wanted. On the ground, 064 was in so much pain that he was rolling from side to side before ultimately spitting out a mouthful of blood. Blood sprayed out wildly like a fountain. Most of it splashed onto Xiao Luo, covering her clean pure white skirt with blood splatter that looked like plum blossoms in full bloom. Xiao Luo was startled into a daze. Then she flew into a rage in the next second. "What are you doing?" She unconsciously used searing light. How terribly weak was 064 currently? He still had what appeared to be an intact body from the outside, but his insides had long since already been destroyed by Su Luo until there was practically nothing left. So when Xiao Luo attacked him, he was instantly burned to pitch-black coal. 064 died, just like that. Xiao Luo was astonished. Chu Yang was astonished. A person who was even more astonished was the captain of the Thorn team. At this moment, 061 first stared dazedly at 064. Then his eyes opened wide till they were perfectly round, and he glared unwaveringly at his pitch-black subordinate, who looked just like a strip of coal. Finally, he shifted his incredulous gaze inch by inch onto Xiao Luo. Chapter 2383, By Chance 3. Facing the murderous gaze of the Thorn Captain, Xiao Luo was so scared that she suddenly shivered from the depths of her heart. She subconsciously ran to hide behind Chu Yang, shouting loudly in terror. "It wasn't me. It wasn't me who killed him. It really wasn't me." But who would believe her? Everyone had watched Xiao Luo perform the treatment with their very own eyes. Everyone was a witness. They could all prove that this person had indeed been killed by Xiao Luo. Big brother, you have to believe me. That black-clothed man really wasn't killed by me." Xiao Luo was so nervous that she was trembling all over. The Thorn Captain's pair of eyes was like an ice shard stabbing at her, stabbing to the extent where she found it hard to sit at ease and was filled with worry. All around there was silence. Nobody made a sound. Chu Yang quietly looked at Xiao Luo and opened his mouth with difficulty. His voice was hoarse as he spoke distinctly. "Why?" Xiao Luo had clearly said it would be easy to treat 064, so why did he die from the treatment in the end? Why was it that everyone was ultimately forced to make unnecessary sacrifices even when a truce was clearly possible? Why did it have to be so unreasonable, so unjustifiable? Xiao Luo was shocked and then became at a loss. "Brother, Right at that moment, the Thorn Captain attacked without hesitation. His long arm reached out and grabbed hold of Xiao Luo's slender snow-white neck, and Xiao Luo's tongue extended out greatly as she was being strangled. In an instant, the face that had originally been white turned into a vivid purple, taking on a very frightening appearance. The Thorn Captain even gripped Xiao Luo's shoulders and lifted her up. "Ah!" Xiao Luo's mouth let out a choked voice, unable to get a single word out. "Didn't you say it was easily curable? Didn't you say it was as easy as the flip of a hand? How come the person has been cured to death?" The Thorn Captain's pair of eyes were livid, and his expression hidden under the black scarf was twisted. He was so angry that he was about to explode. "You deliberately intended to kill him, didn't you?" The Thorn Captain burst out. Xiao Luo was already dizzy from being strangled. In addition to that, she suddenly felt her mouth and nose were being obstructed, and felt as if the shadow of death was looming over her body. Chu Yang finally reacted. He quickly stepped up and grabbed the Thorn Captain's shoulder. "Let go of her." Chu Yang had a very powerful grip, but the Thorn Captain's shoulder was as solid as a rock. The two people were at a standstill. Xiao Luo kept kicking her legs helplessly as if she were drowning. The moment Chu Yang saw that the situation was not favorable, he couldn't spend any more time thinking about what to do. He immediately covered the back of the Thorn Captain's hand with his own large hand. It was because he saw the Thorn Captain was twisting his fingers. With the twist of his fingers, Xiao Luo's neck would be broken. He only had this one little sister. How could he bear to let her die? The Thorn Captain threw Xiao Luo aside heavily. Following this, he began to fight hard against Chu Yang. After a mere moment, the two teams that had originally been calm now unexpectedly began to fight again irreconcilably, enveloped in the flames of battle. Their battle was only just beginning. But Su Luo had already long since retreated over and over and over again. She retreated far away, because the time limit of the invisibility potion on her body had already passed. If she still didn't leave, she would be caught immediately. Due to the fight, Su Luo didn't intend to stay where she was. In fact, while she was sabotaging the body of the black-clothed 064 earlier, she had already gotten hold of the crystal fragment from his arms. Having obtained the crystal fragment, Su Luo decided on the spot, "I'll return to the spirit transformation pond." There was only one piece, but as the saying went, even a mosquito, though tiny, still provides nourishment. Su Luo hastily held the 7th crystal fragment and ran to the spirit transformation pond. Chapter 2384. By chance 4. Su Luo walked slowly into the spirit transformation pond. She smoothly and steadily placed the dreamily gorgeous crystal fragment into the spirit transformation pond. Very quickly, a hazy holy light appeared above the spirit transformation pond. Su Luo sat with her legs crossed, and her body began to sink to the bottom of the spirit transformation pond. She closed her eyes tightly, stopped her breathing, and used her body's instincts to absorb the holy energy from the spirit transformation pond. As there was only one crystal fragment, Su Luo absorbed it very slowly, savoring it with each bite. Previously, the energy of 6 crystal fragments allowed for Su Luo's light attribute to advance to the 3rd level of searing light, so it was now right at its peak. As soon as Su Luo absorbed the 7th crystal fragment, she immediately broke through the barrier and reached the next level. Mirror cloning. A completely identical copy of Su Luo appeared behind her. This copy was exactly the same as her original self, be it how she was dressed or her strength. At this time, this clone was in an identical posture to Su Luo. They were both sitting cross-legged and had their fingers facing upward in a pinching pose while resting on their knees. Soon after, a second clone appeared behind Su Luo. That previous clone had appeared on Su Luo's left, and now this new mirror clone was on Su Luo's right, forming a 3-part force with the original Su Luo. Su Luo knew that as long as she had enough power, she would be able to create more clones, reaching a maximum number of as many as 81. However, when Su Luo condensed the second clone, the energy of the crystal fragment was almost exhausted. It was no longer possible to condense a 3rd mirror clone. This made Su Luo somewhat disappointed, as she had been preparing to have many clones appear all at once, preventing the enemy from finding her original self. Imagine if there were a scene with 81 clones, each running wildly in a different direction. Which one would the enemy chase after? Poor Su Luo. She had probably been chased too many times. So after gaining the ability to create clones, her first reaction was to use it to avoid being chased. Just as Su Luo was about to get up and leave the spirit transformation pond to search for the 8th crystal fragment, there was a slight ringing sound nearby. Su Luo's body, which was just about to rise from the pond, was instantly frozen in place as if someone had sealed all her acupuncture points. It was because she heard a familiar sound. There was absolutely no mistake about it. This sound was clearly the voice of the Thorn Captain. Why were they here? Could it be that their battle had already ended? At this time, Su Luo, who had sunk to the bottom of the spirit transformation pond, concentrated on holding her breath. She sat motionlessly in place as she listened to the voices outside. "Captain, why stop the battle? Did 064 just die for nothing?" The Thorn Captain snorted coldly. How could his death be for nothing? But the other side only had one female die, and it wasn't even that one with the light attribute. Doesn't that mean that 064 died very unjustly? Su Luo heard this conversation and raised her eyebrows slightly. Female, but not the one with the light attribute. Then meant the one who died was senior sister Yu, not Xiao Luo? We exchanged that wretched girl for 3 dark heart fragments. Is that still not enough to shut your mouth? The captain scolded and snorted coldly. Stupid. How am I stupid? This person expressed his disbelief. I called you stupid, yet you're still not convinced? Look, where did these 3 dark heart fragments come from? From the other side as compensation. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.